Up in scoop.
That could be in scoop, yeah.
So we should keep doing that? Or
Yeah.
are we talking about possibilities here? What we should do, because I think they should be the same.
I think that his suggestion, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the suggestion was making it a little more complex, makes it more easier for search purposes, so we don't have like an identical slug like a year apart. Cause like, I know I've slugged things like CL News, Red, White and Bruise, and then the next year it's CL News, Red, White and Bruise, exact same slug, except for the date might be like a day off.
Okay, so I'm just calling up an asset here. Okay, so there it is. So this is the slug field right up here. So a slug that you guys would type in would be something like 2025. If you want hyphens, then it would be a 2-digit year. So, or 2-digit month, 06 hyphen, and tomorrow, let's say it's going to publish tomorrow, would be the 13th hyphen, and then whatever you wanted. Well, you're talking about a pub code designator, so something like CLBEE hyphen, and whatever you want to call it. Something like that. I know that's hard to see. So again, slug codes, slugs are case sensitive. You can type upper and lower in there. Like if you wanted to do the pub code in all caps, you could. It's just that everybody needs to know they need to search for it in all caps, otherwise they won't find it. Okay. So,
Well, I don't know if we have to decide this right now, but I mean, it's something that we should definitely have to say for all the papers.
yeah, and I would say know it by next week. You know, and everybody starts off because people forget the first week. So the first week, we're going to be reminding people to put in slugs. It's going to make things a lot easier to find. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to mention was workflows. So under workflows, we have a few in here. Pages you'll never actually do anything with, although there may be some times that you guys will look at it to determine whether or not pages are completed yet. But print only and web and print. So all stories are going to start in the web and print workflow. We're going to set that up. These are the stages, and this is just terminology, and I'm going to read them off so you can see them, or so you can understand them. Draft, ready to edit, design, and complete. So when a reporter has it, it's in the draft stage. They promote it, and then an editor knows it's ready to edit. So the editor goes into it, makes changes. They promote it. It goes to design, which means it's ready for the InDesign page. And then when you output the page, all the stories on the page move to complete.
Where is that? I'm not seeing it.
We're willing to see it. That's happening.
Flow under that.
As an editor, you can also have a column like this, workflow, so you can see it there.
Okay,
You can also have a saved search that searches just for ready to edit.
okay.
Okay. We also have a budget in the system where you could do search for everything that's on a budget.
Okay.
Do you guys currently use a budget right now? Like maybe Google Docs or something?
I do, but
Do you?
for just Amherst, like
Okay.
myself.
Do we
You
do
don't-
what?
Technically,
Like
you
an
don't.
upcoming stories budget or what you got that week, right?
Oh,
That's, I do.
There's some people that, you know, I say, do you use a budget? And they have like a pad of paper and they just write down what's coming.
like that.
This is a little bit more organized and everybody can see it. In my newsroom, we used to have people, we had a budget so that people wouldn't say, oh, I'm working on this story, and go, oh, I'm working on that story too. You find out two people are doing the same thing. So right now, these are the steps, and that's what they're called. They can be anything. We can have a ready to edit. We can have a first read, second read, if every story gets read twice, because sometimes they do. It tends to be like some people have a certain workflow, but sports has a different workflow because sports is completely different. Like They're lucky if they edit it before it hits the page and they edit it on the page. That's usually the way sports works. And I say it with love because I came out of sports years ago. And this is just terminology. First stage is draft. It could be, reporter. Then the next stage could be editor. It's whatever you want to call it. I can make it that way. So we probably want to think, what do we want to call this? How many steps we need? And get that set before like Monday. Okay. The other thing that the workflow can do is it can put the story online. Like when it goes to design, we automatically uncheck do not publish. Okay. So it would put the story online when it hits the design stage. However, down here at the bottom where it says start date and time, bottom left, that is the ultimate control of when a story goes online.
So you have to,
Then what?
It does not show up online. If do not publish is checked, people are not seeing it
You
online.
have the date set.
Correct.
Stuff.
Correct. So there's two little checks and balances. There's the do not publish and there's the start date and time. This is the ultimate control. If I uncheck this, but that's for tomorrow's date, nobody's seeing it until tomorrow. Yes.
Why would we ever,
It
as long as
also-
we're doing the bottom part,
Schedule.
Yeah, to schedule it, you're gonna schedule it, but there's a lot of times people create a story and they don't think about the start date and time at the very beginning. It gets the start date and time of now when you create it. And if they hit save, the story's online.
automatically, like the minute you hit save,
Well, we're gonna make sure do not publish is checked in that
Okay.
first stage,
that's okay.
okay?
I mean, I think we do the scheduling thing because we're weekly and we know when, it's supposed to be.
Sure, and you probably don't want all your stories going up at the exact same time. You want people
No.
coming back to your website. So you can schedule stories to go up at different times. But in the past, you've probably written your stories in, I don't know, Word or something like that, and then just put them on the website. Well, now you're writing them on the website.
No.
No,
Yeah.
No, we didn't do
Transferred
it.
over from the PDFs, all the same day, hometown, that company.
Yeah, we've never done this before. It was an outside.
okay.
It wasn't great.
So
There were errors.
So they would do
you
it.
don't have to do anything.
No, exactly, yeah.
So now we're creating our stories in here. And as the stories are being saved and edited, we don't want those stories going up yet. So that's why do not publish is going to be checked right from the start.
Actually, when I'm confused. So now this says June 12th, so today, let's say the time, okay, this says 8 AM. So even though it is do not publish, because this overrides that, it will still be online because of the date,
No, if do not publish is checked, it's not online.
regardless of what it's scheduled.
Correct.
Okay,
Those two things work together.
okay.
If I uncheck that, it's not going to be online until it reaches that.
Okay.
Okay,
But if it reaches that, like now it has reached it.
but that's checked, so it won't be seen.
So, okay.
Okay. Okay,
Is the do not publish box always like in that tab, or are there any, does anyone using this program have it somewhere that's a little more like around where the draft button is or something so that,
that is it.
okay.
Is it always checked?
We're going to set your preferences to where it will always be checked.
Okay.
Because we're going to add the workflow, and as part of the workflow, it checks and unchecks that at certain stages. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is everybody logged into BLOX, or everybody who's,
Yeah, so I never use this, laptop login and desktop I usually use, and I put in all my correct, credentials, but it's just kind of got it caught on this loading screen and said I can't access it.
staging site. Get rid of everything after .com.
Okay.
Once you guys went live, the staging site would no longer work.
Oh,
So
okay.
he doesn't seem to have.
BLOX CMS.
Do not publish under miscellaneous properties. Are you under other?
Yes.
You gotta be under other,
Otherwhere now. Oh, okay.
and then you're under miscellaneous properties. That's you
Down under. If you had to learn it.
Oh,
gotta be under.
Thank you all.
Like a bar there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not. This is how technologically savvy we are.
okay, so we're gonna set some preferences to start. Yes.
She's never been asked, can we get her?
Okay, so up in the address bar, type in admin.
This is why it's gonna take that out.
We're in Chicago.
We did.
The number two.
Okay.
I don't think that has everything in it. .blockcms.com. Make sure it's still. Yeah, hit enter.
I'm gonna forget to uncheck do not publish.
I just think so it might be that you want publish if you don't.
If you don't.
Even if it's diamonds.
Okay.
In the same page. It's gonna say that it's in the 20s. It's like, you'll recognize that one page. Check the.
How have they been going? Is it? We haven't
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It ought to
It's gonna
be
be
more
our email address.
for the report is we
It
do
did.
like 20 minutes to pay.
It's up.
I create an account for her.
What's your email?
It's a lot.
Okay, wait. Or if you want to write it down so that you can keep going. Doesn't matter.
And this username and password is what you're gonna use to get into InDesign also. Okay, we're gonna set up some preferences and I'll go slow so you can catch up. You see how I have all these columns here? You probably don't have all those same columns, but you could add those. If you mouse over any one of these headers up here, like where it says type or status, you can see a little downward arrow. If you click on that and go to columns, you can check all the columns you want to have and all the columns you don't want to have. So the ones you're going to need are the ones that I have there: status, author, slug. Slug and depth are really important.
Yeah. Stop. I don't know.
So
How
go
do you
ahead
add?
and close your story.
And you can look, there's hover over one of the headers and there's a little down arrow on the far right.
Ah,
So now click.
Oh, wait, it just says store ascending.
There you go.
I'm doing these. What is depth?
Depth is the depth of your story in inches. So it's your inch count on a story.
Oh, that's great. Oh, yeah, I like that. That's cool.
Check. So do you need priority? Probably not. I would uncheck priority. And photo sales, I would probably uncheck. Delete time, we don't delete anything, so why have delete time even as a column? So I usually stick with those. As you check things, you'll notice it adds them way over to the right. You can move them. So if I want depth to be over here, I can click and drag it across this line and drop it wherever.
What is status?
Status tells you the status of a story. Like if somebody has it open, you'll see a padlock there. So it's really important to have that column.
Okay.
It would also, under status, it will tell you if the story has been placed in InDesign. You'll see a little InDesign logo there if it's been placed already. So you can move these columns wherever you want. You can also make them, if you mouse over here and you click, you can make it wider so you can see more or narrower. The one thing I would warn you about, you saw I made my screen a little bit bigger. You can make it smaller. So on a PC, it's Control plus, Control minus. On a Mac, it's Command plus, Command minus. But if you make it too big and you open up an asset, it's not going to fit on the screen. So you don't want to make it too big. Okay, these columns are stored in the cache of the web browser that you're using right now. So if you're on this machine and you go to a different machine, you'll have to set those columns on that machine too. Now we're going to set some preferences. Up here, it says logged in as, and it has your email address. So we're going to go up there. We're going to go down to profile. It might actually bark something at you. Don't worry about it. Just click OK and it'll let you do anything anyway.
It's in the back brain.
Yeah, but we give you
Yeah.
permission anyway.
It's about that computer.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So in here, there is a content tab. Content. If you put your byline here, every story you create will automatically have your byline on it.
Emily already set that up.
Alright?
But we don't
All the
want it
names
for every story though. Like just,
You can remove it from the stories you don't want it on, like briefs and stuff like that.
right.
It's much easier to remove it from stories than to type it in every time.
And also like, yeah. You could change all the regions files, like,
Yeah, we did that.
That's what I do.
What then you can do is if you fill in that box, it'll auto-populate that box, so you don't have to retype it all.
Correct. And you want this to look like what it is on the web. So on the web, you probably do like a one-line byline.
Yeah.
And in print, you do 2 lines, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is we have these things in the background called rule sets. It's gonna take that one-line byline and it's gonna add a hard return and do it right for print. Okay. So you do 1 line here and I'll fix it when it hits print. Tagline, if you fill that in, it shows up at the bottom of every story. You guys put like a tagline at the end of every story, maybe email address, that kind of stuff. He does.
And it's the only one in sports.
Well, he can do that. So
And
it's something you could do. All right. Once you're done with that, you click save. So that's one preference up there. Now we're going to go back up there. Logged in as. We're going to hover over preferences. And we're going to go to default asset author. If you want to be seen as the author of everything you create, you say yes. This is really good for reporters, sometimes not so good for editors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now I see why. Okay.
But when we're putting up stories from other people, like the reporters or the internet.
So we had the.
And then manually just put it in. Like.
Right.
Yes, we don't put a byline for those.
And then.
Right, but they automatically pop up.
And this is usually not a good setting for like news clerks. Because they end up typing in obits and everything, and you don't want their author being on the obits.
These are.
Okay?
What?
Oh, do you want another one?
Are we supposed
Okay.
to look at?
Set a bunch of press releases and
Right.
stuff, only if you're doing exclusively by.
Right.
It does tie together with your byline. So if you say no on that, it's not going to automatically put your byline on every story. You got to have both of those things. But you can delete and remove the author on stuff that isn't your byline. It's much easier to remove that stuff from each story than it is to type it in and add it each time. The next one we're going to go to, and this one's really important, preferences, default asset workflow. This is what we were talking about a minute ago. And instead of none, we want to change it to web and print. That is going to make it to where when you create a story, it has do not publish selected automatically.
It just says none. Do you
Yeah,
have
this,
to-
we don't have any.
Options on this.
There's no
You
down.
can't do the drop down?
No,
No, it's just none.
All right.
there's a drop down that just says none.
Yes.
What do you have?
I don't know. I haven't.
I haven't.
I know, I know.
Manager,
Some
get it.
people have it. Some people-
Their users don't have the right permissions.
I mean, I just gave her, did you have?
I created all the
Oh, yeah, she's got it. She's got it.
the users.
So
Their users were already created at that point, so we need to add them together. So we're gonna go.
Matt's gonna put everything for us now.
Okay, that sounds good.
Funny, right?
What does that do? Making it the default workflow?
It means that as you promote a story, it will automatically uncheck do not publish at a certain stages. So your stories, when it's web and print, stories are going to go into print and then they're going to go into the web.
Okay.
Basically, we need to go through every single user and make sure that they have reporter and editor.
They're all editors.
Yeah, so they're missing a reporter. And the ones who probably have access right now, they were administrators.
We have to have.
I think we need to. We need
Please.
to, yeah.
Put it back, like, I can't believe we just abandoned those accounts.
I need to- Can I see it on Main Street?
Hey, you're ahead.
I was looking, connection. There's-
Oh, on here.
Instagram.
Then I. Then I took these. And it's just me, my son, it's fine. Yeah, that's essentially.
So they can't read it.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just. Can't actually see that.
Maybe.
Can we make this, everything up there on the TV bigger for the old people back when you see that far away?
I can make my screen a little bit bigger. I don't know how to operate your TV so much to do that. If there's a resolution on the TV. Okay,
A nice.
so go ahead and do this. If you have that screen open, just hit cancel and hit your browser refresh button up at the top. So refresh your browser. Then go back to preferences, default asset workflow. And now do you have the pull down menu with stuff in it?
Yes. Web and print, you said?
Yep, web and print. And then save changes. Back up there one more time. Preferences. There's another one in here that says rich text editor font size. That's not going to change the size of this. It's going to change the size of the print inside the story. So if I open up, say I open up this story, it's changing the size of this print. Okay, makes it bigger. You can also do that within the story right here. So if I wanted normal, it would be like that. But if your eyes are starting to go like my eyes are starting to go, I usually go extra large. It makes it that. It doesn't affect your inch count or anything like that. Nope.
Oh, okay.
No, it's only your view of the story. It doesn't affect anybody else viewing the story either. Yeah, that's what I do. The only downside is just scroll a little bit more, but it's a good trade-off for me. So once we have those preferences set, workflow and everything, hit your browser refresh button again. It's going to force those changes to our server in Chicago, and those preferences will follow you anywhere you log in. So now we're going to create a story. And this is what reporters do, editors do constantly. They go to new asset and they choose article. It opens up the shell of a story. And if you don't think too hard about it, it's fill in the blank. Up at the top, web headline. That is the headline that people are going to see online. And you'll notice that it's faintly underlined in red. That means that you can't save the story until you have a headline. Try it'll bark at you and say you got to add it. So go ahead and give your story a headline. And I always warn people, don't write anything that's going to get in trouble. Okay. I did one of these in St. Louis, and some girl wrote a nasty story about her boss. I never saw her again. So don't do that. Now, we can just check just to make sure, but if I go to the other tab, do not publish should be selected. Okay, so even if we were to save this, not going anywhere. Okay, so we filled in our web headline. If I had put in my byline information and I selected yes as an author, it filled in my byline information automatically. Over here on the right, there's a print tab. That was added last week. Ready for print, you will not use, so don't worry about that checkbox. But right underneath it, that's our slug. So this is where we would slug our story. Once we put a slug in the story, can we change it later? Sure. Because there's going to be times when you create a story for a specific date and the story gets held. So then you might want to go and change the slug for that specific date. So if we follow what I mentioned before, although you might want to change it, it would be something like 2025 hyphen 06 hyphen 13 hyphen CLBEE hyphen Mark story.
Yeah.
There we go.
Have to do it, like, we keep it the way.
We were talking about. that.
We
Can you
can-
do what?
Undecided.
Like AM news, like AM news. AM news. And then the date has to be first.
I would put the date first, only because over in the search field over here, you could start with the date and an asterisk, and it will give you everything for that day's publication. If you have it somewhere in the middle, you'd have to put like asterisk date, asterisk.
Make it really easy.
You said you did year, month, day.
I did year, month, date because I could say, okay, I want to see everything in 2025. Now I can pare it down little by little, everything for this month in 2025. So underneath slug, there's a headline field. That's a print headline. Doesn't mean you have to have a separate headline for your print publication, but it means you can have something completely different than your web headline. So you could have a web headline that says one thing and a print headline that says something completely different. That's okay.
And if they leave that blank,
Right. If you leave the print headline blank, it takes the web headline and puts it on the page.
It doesn't, like,
I would say that you edit them to fit on the page. So you might take a word or two out in print that maybe you wouldn't take out online. Okay. But, and here's the point, when you change it on the page, it does not change the web headline. It saves back to the print headline field. So it's going to leave the web headline alone, which is a good thing. Unless there's a big mistake in the headline and you correct it on the page, you got to go back here and fix it also.
So
Yes.
if you don't type in anything in that headline, it'll just take the headline from the web headline.
Correct.
Okay.
Print subheadline is underneath that. So this is a subheadline that only shows up in print. Do you guys use subheadlines? I didn't really go through too much. Okay. If you think you're going to use one, but you don't know what you want it to be, just put some X's in there. That way, when you place it on the InDesign page, it'll come styled in its own box, and then you can do whatever you want to it on the page.
So how do we have subheadline on the web?
Under the other tab, it's a little bit different. If you scroll down in here, there's web subheadline is here, kicker and hammer. You guys don't use kickers and hammers? Okay. Hammer is gigantic headline in addition to your headline. So it's kind of like 911 or 911 things, sports uses it a lot that I see, like when they win a championship, NBA,
oh, I think.
Dave Sherman used it during the 9/11 stuff in
Yeah.
the plane crash.
just gigantic 100-point headlines, that kind of thing.
I think that was the last time we used
Under-
them.
that's for the web?
Web and print. In that, it actually does web and print.
He kind
The
of.
subheadline there is only web.
Long enough.
Now, a kicker is almost like a label, shows up above the headline, usually to the left. And again, sports tends to use them more than anybody else. But I've seen it in papers, like if they have certain areas that they cover, like a certain school district might have the school district name. In sports, they might say NBA playoffs or something like that, but they're little tiny label kickers. Okay,
it's the big one.
now hammer's the big one.
Hammer,
Yeah.
What is hammer?
Hammer is gigantic headline in addition to your headline.
It's not the size, it's the number of words, right?
Or,
For the hammer.
it's a size.
The size.
It's usually gigantic and bold. It's good to have like a big, bold, narrow headline so that you could fit like 2 words. Yeah. Print placement priority, you will not use. Jump keyword and jump head. Now I've heard doing jumps in Scoop was kind of difficult. It's really easy in BLOX, and I'll show you that when we get to InDesign. If you fill in a jump keyword it's a suggestion to the page designer. They don't have to use it, but they can use it. So in most cases, you don't need to use these two fields, but it's there.
Usually we use the first two words.
Mhm.
So I put the jump headline and but we're going to enter that later.
You'll see how it works when we get to InDesign. Now, I did trade a couple of emails with somebody to change your jumps a little bit because you guys actually wrote out the word like page 7, and we don't actually write that out. It's usually a numeral, so it's going to be a numeral. But I'll show it to you when we get there. Down here at the bottom, notes, they're non-printing notes. They don't show up online, they don't show up in print, so you can write notes back and forth from editor to reporter. One kind of interesting feature is if you start it with the word alert, either all caps, lowercase, title case, doesn't matter, alert, colon, and then your note, the page designer gets a pop-up window and they can't miss it. Okay, but I would say don't put it alert on everything because then it's like spam and they'll click right through it. So make sure that it's alert colon worthy. Okay. Down here at the very bottom, it says publications. And if you click on that, now I can choose add. This is how to put a story on a budget. Okay. And I'm going to run through the process and show you what the budget looks like. So I would choose what publication, and I'm just going to do training and testing.
How did you get there again? Sorry.
Click on the print tab
Okay.
at the very bottom, publications.
Okay.
Then you click add. Then you can choose a date. So I'm going to say the 13th. Section, you guys are always going to be section. I'm going to default it to section A. Yes.
What's the difference between this and the time at the bottom left?
Oh,
Like time and date at the bottom
Yeah,
left.
shrink your screen.
Time and date.
Like the date.
The whole thing.
Like why do you have to put it in here? So-
This is budgeting a story for a specific date, not necessarily
Oh,
when it's going online, but when it's going to run in print.
okay.
And then I'm going to say page 1.
Okay.
Through the eight papers under the publication drop down there.
Yeah, I started adding them yesterday and I have to change it because you do 2-letter pub codes. So I'm going to change that to 2
So like
letters.
if we want something on page 1, on the print, we would just type in 1
Yes.
and then they would see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you do section A and I'm going to default it to section A and you type in page
Maybe
1.
it'll be different, yeah.
So this is budgeting a future story. That is if I have one, if I don't have
We're
one.
not still waiting.
When you create the story, you budget it for that publication.
Yeah.
It'll be different on our.
Yeah.
So if you're starting to work on a story today for next week,
Yeah.
you would budget that story for next week's publication.
Anyway.
We have to do this.
Oh, okay.
Do you have to? No. Can you? Yes.
Okay,
That
that's.
saves you from back and having to do it. Right?
Not only does it save you time to find stories, it will also save the page designer time. They won't have to go looking for stories. They just kind of show up. And so right now I have my story and I budget it. I will show you what it looks like. Let me just put a little bit of text in here. Yep. It's going to default to section A. And it doesn't say A anywhere, but that's your section is A. Okay. Okay.
So we don't worry about addition,
Addition
zone,
or?
Nope.
place, nothing.
No,
Okay.
because you guys don't do additions and zones.
Section would be A.
And location is what?
That's, you guys aren't going to use that right now. So the only thing you have to fill out is publication and the date.
Oh, okay.
If you know the section and page, section's always going to be A. But if you know the page, it's a bonus. It helps.
Okay, so.
So all the stuff that they would put in lifestyle,
Yeah.
which is the news, because they have to do both. lifestyles could be like.
Is there anything else we have to check?
Well, it's gonna be section A, right? Because you only have one section in your paper, technically. Yeah,
Okay.
so if they know the page numbers.
And it's all one, and then our special section tabs are folded inside, yeah.
Okay,
Do we
So-
have to search name box for the children box on this page?
the search name,
Under input location where it's got like search name and it's got children, like what, do we need to fill those in?
nothing. The only ones that are really important right now are publication, date, section and page. Outside of that, don't worry about the other stuff. What this does for you is, and I don't expect you to go here, I just want to show it to you. This is Page Tracker and it lists the publication. So this is the publication that I budgeted for. And when I click on it one time and I go to budget view, it will list all the stories that have been budgeted. Usually the first time there's. So it'll list the stories like this. So there'll be a list of 20, 30 stories here. And I can see, okay, it's this story. If there are any photos related to it, it would actually show me those photos on the budget. I can see what stage of the workflow it's in because there's a workflow column right here. And what's really nice about the budget is I can edit the story directly from the budget just by double clicking it. The other advantage of the budget is if I budget a story for A1, when the designer opens up A1 and opens up the asset manager, it lists all the stories that are slated to go on that page and they don't have to go searching for them. It just shows up in a list.
How do you get the budget? Oh,
It's, well, if you go up to, let me. That's weird.
It's showing up.
So up here, I went to Page Tracker. So Page Tracker will list all the publications. I did training for the 13th and I choose up here budget view. That shows me the budget.
Yeah, wait. Oh, wait.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting people to actually follow me to this spot. I was just showing what the budget looked like. Okay,
How do you get to see your budgets again? Sorry.
go ahead and,
Up here?
Yeah. Page tracker.
and doing that with the story open, it's gonna
Okay.
throw your story out.
Okay.
So the other, and as long as I'm here, I will just tell you, the other thing that Page Tracker will show you is the status of pages. So if there were any pages created, and in fact, I could probably show you some yesterday pages because Dave and I were working on some stuff. So I could do that. This is the status of pages. So if there was stuff on the pages, you could actually proof from here. So I could go here and like, there was a story on this. Double click. And I could proof a story that way, or proof a page that way.
It's not in design, right? It's just-
This is just in Page Tracker. It's not in design. Take it out of this. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the assets where my story is. And because I budgeted, or I slugged my story, I could do 2025 hyphen 06 hyphen 13 and an asterisk, which is a wild card that means and anything else. And click search, and I can find all the stories that begin with that slug. And this is mine right here. Okay, so we went through this print tab. Down here under publications is where we left off. Over here is where we write our story. So in the body copy field, this is where we write our story. You don't need any first line indents. You don't need, you're gonna notice that after every paragraph, there's a little gap, and that's for the web purposes. In print, when it hits the page, it finds your body copy style and styles it body copy, first line indent, and it style syncs correctly. Okay. Now, some of you probably write outside the system. Maybe you write it in Word, you write it somewhere else, and it's fine to do that. What's really important though is that you use this little clipboard over here. Paste as plain text. You click that, you paste your story in here, and you click insert. It strips out all the nastiness. If you paste it directly into this window, it will look perfectly fine to you. But then when you put it on the InDesign page, it'll be littered with HTML code. You guys will see it when you hit it on the page.
So Control Shift, you can do that with that.
Possibly will, as long as that's pasted as plain text. Some browsers do it and some browsers don't. Okay. So the clipboard, really important. Right next to it, find and replace. So you can find something and replace with something else. All right.
Where is it?
Right next to the clipboard, right here on the toolbar, find and replace.
This is just text, finding and replacing text.
Yep.
Like a word or something.
If you misspelled somebody's name, you can fix it in all instances.
Oh.
Okay.
See, my Word file has bolded subheadlines. And when I do this insert.
You can strip it out. You can strip it out. So you want to do all your bolding and stuff in here, not in Word.
Okay.
Okay. So the next buttons are what you're bringing up there: bold, italics, and underline.
Okay.
Which on a PC, Control B, Control I, Control U. On a Mac, Command B, Command I, Command U. The next button, inline note.
Okay.
So let's say I wanted to write a note to somebody, or I wanted to turn something into a note. I would click that and it makes this greenish, yellowish color. That means it's a non-printing note. Won't show up online, won't show up in print. So I can write notes within the story. It could be an editor who's reading it and says, you need to follow up on this, get a better quote, do whatever. So an editor can write notes back to the reporter. If you highlight a note and click the same button, it turns it back into regular text. And I've seen reporters actually do editing that way. Like they will take out a paragraph. They'll say, oh, I think I'm going to cut this. So they'll put it in a note. And then they'll go later and then they'll decide, I need that. So they'll put it back to regular text.
And the note will not appear, right?
Doesn't appear anywhere, except, let me point this out. If you copy and paste your story from there to Facebook or something like that, they don't understand our non-printing notes. It'll be regular text where you paste it. Okay. But if it's a note, it does not show up online. The next button, if I highlight something and click this, it's called Trim from Print. And it changes it to this reddish kind of pinkish color. That means it's going to trim it from the print publication, but it will show up online. And you can actually do that from the InDesign page. So let's say that you wanted to cut a story because it won't fit on the page, but you do want that to show up online. You would trim it. Okay. And I've also seen that used for dates. Because in print, you might say, this is going to happen on Friday. But online, maybe you want to put the exact date because it's going to be up there for years. So you could put Friday, comma, the date, and you could trim out everything but Friday. Okay. The next button is a link. So that's for a hyperlink. So if I highlight a word in my story and click on the hyperlink, I can put a URL in there and it's a clickable hyperlink online. Doesn't do anything in print. It's just regular text in print. But online, they'll be able to click it and go to that link. So if you're writing a story about the Buffalo Bills and you say that they added them to their roster, you could actually highlight the word roster and link it to the Bills roster. Okay. Next, we have paragraph formatting. So you can left align things, center things, right align, and block quote you'll never use. Don't use block quote because it's not your pull quote. There's a different way of doing pull quotes. Left align is the default, so you mostly don't use that either. So if you wanted to center something or right align something, you could do that. Then we have a numbered list and we have a bulleted list. So when you want to do bullets, there's your bullets. And it's a list. So it's numbered list, bulleted list. Okay. Now on a Mac, you can do option 8. I would suggest you don't use that. Use this list because we automatically apply a bulleted paragraph style when it hits the page. And when it saves back, it'll save back properly. If you do the option 8, I don't know that I can get it to save back properly. And when I say save back, when you make changes on the InDesign page, like corrections, we save all that back to the website so you don't have to go back and make those corrections again.
Okay.
Next, we have insert horizontal rule. So what that does is it puts a horizontal line all the way across, which we strip out in print. But if you're doing something web only, you could do that. And I've seen people use it in like blogs or roundups, breaking up segments of stories. Then we have insert page break. And page break, it's kind of interesting because if my story was longer, I'm going to add some stuff to my story so you can see it. So if I went up here and I inserted a page break right here, and let me make sure I didn't change anything. Good. I'm going to save my story, and then I'm going to view what it looks like online. So I'm reading the first page, and I can page over to the next page. So for really long stories, instead of having people continue to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, you can have them page over to the next page. Then we have insert simple table, which again, web only, feel free to use that. If it's web and print, I wouldn't use it because I can make the table look really good when it hits the InDesign page, but I destroy the table when it saves back. So I would avoid that. If you want to use tables, when you create a new asset, there's one in here called a table asset. I can make that look good in both places. So if you want to do tables, that's how you do it. I've seen tables used in things like financial stuff, budget, the city, county they give you a document. One thing that's kind of nice about the tables is you can import and export. So if you get an Excel file, you can import that and it makes the table. Insert embedded media player or widget. So if you have widget code, you can paste that in here. Something like, well, people used to do it more with Twitter, but we have a better way of doing that now. You could get tweet code and paste it here and it would embed it into the story. Then we have symbols. The only ones you'll probably use here are the accents. So accent over the E, stuff like that. You can use those. There is stuff here for math for fractions, but I'm willing to bet that your fonts and print will not work with those. So I would shy away from those. Do you actually use true fractions or you just do 1/2?
I use fractions for sports.
For like agate?
Yeah, like track and like that sort of stuff.
Okay. What I can do if you want is I can set up a rule set that takes 1/2, you'd type 1/2. and it applies character styles and it does this and it makes it look just like a fraction in print.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
Alright.
So you can embed tweets in your stories with the X button here. And some people don't like typing in this tiny little window. So you have a couple of options. You can click the maximize button, which makes it bigger. Same button, pops it back out. Or you can click the 4 arrows here, which makes it a full screen editor. And that same button pops it out. The only disadvantage of the full screen editor is here's my save button. So I can save my story. When I'm in the full screen, the only way I can save it is to get out of that and save. People always ask, is there an autosave? And the answer is no, there's no autosave. Keyboard shortcut? No keyboard shortcut. It's that save button. Now, the salespeople will tell you there's an autosave, but it's really not. It's an auto recovery, okay? It means that if I never saved my story and the power went out, the next time I go into BLOX, I'll get a dialog box that says, hey, this was open the last time you were in here. Do you want to restore it or do you want to discard it? And you can just hit restore. If you do that, that's fine. You'd be surprised how many people will click discard accidentally. So read everything that's on the screen. But that's why it's not an autosave, is because until you actually click restore, it's not there. You can sort of, well, this is what I see happen most of the time in that case. Someone's done with their story, and rather than close it, they close the web browser. So the story's still open. The next time you go into BLOX, it will say, this story was open. What do you want to do? In fact, I think I can sort of make it happen. You would get that dialog box that says, hey, that story was open the next time. So you would click on it and click restore, and it would bring it back. It's just I have it open on another tab.
That little red circle with the 25.
Jumping ahead, so you want to know about spell check?
Oh.
So every browser has its own spell check. I have something in mind that's called, probably would say it. I haven't used it in a while. What's it called? You can put in Grammarly if you want. I don't use Grammarly because it hits me with a lot of ads, and I don't like that. Mine is called something different. I'll figure out the name. It's free. It's a free browser add-on that you can add into it. The spell checks in browsers are usually pretty lame. We don't have a spell check in BLOX. It's just whatever comes with the browser. If you're on a Mac, Safari does have the best spell checker, just because it uses the spell checker that's in the operating system of Safari.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised it doesn't have a spot.
It comes with, the problem we have with developing certain things like that is we work with every browser, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, all that stuff. And if we develop one thing, it's hard to make it work in all of them with all their updates. So.
There's a spell check, it's just that Chrome uses.
Yeah. God, I can't think of what mine's called. But usually kind of.
All your tabs.
Oh, okay.
Turns out spell checker and Chrome is actually kind of.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Okay, so let's say you have subheads throughout your stories. Really long story, you want to break it up with subheads. So you have some text here. Highlight the text, go up here where it says format normal text, and make it heading probably 3 is I think what I have set up for you. So heading 3, it'll bold it. When it goes onto the InDesign page, it knows to use your subhead style. Okay, this is the way it'll look on the web. In print, it'll look however your normal subheads look.
What was that again?
Under format normal text, you change it to heading 3. And sometimes people say, well, can we change the name from heading 3 to subhead? And the answer is no, because they match up with what goes online. Heading 1 heading 2, they actually mean something on the website. Heading 3 is what you'll use for that. We may use some of the other headings for things like brief heads might be heading 2, but we'll have to go through some of your papers and figure out what we're doing there. Now, you may notice that down here, I have words, characters, and the depth of my story in inches, and you probably don't have that. If you click on this little settings cog right up here, mine says hide stats, yours says show stats. You click show stats.
That's do that every time I open up a new asset.
Nope, once you click it, it'll stay there.
It'll stay there.
Yep,
But for every asset, do we have?
for every asset.
It'll stay forever.
For stay until you click hide stats. Okay. Okay, so we went through that toolbar. I will show you this just so you know it's there. There's something that says edit HTML source. And when you click it, it actually shows you the HTML behind the scenes. If you decide to copy and paste and you do it directly into the window, I can come here and say, oh yeah, you pasted directly into the window. Where sometimes people will swear, no, I didn't do that. And I can go here and say, yeah, you did, because look at all this stuff. Correct.
You didn't,
If you didn't, I could tell.
but you're supposed to.
Correct.
I have a question. This might
Yes.
be kind of a question, but because it says web headline at the top.
Yes.
But that's the same headline for print too, right?
If, as long as you leave the print headline blank, it is. Remember, under the print tab, we have
Okay,
print headline, web headline.
okay, yeah.
If you leave the print headline blank, it'll take the web headline and put it on the page.
Okay.
Okay, so we went through body copy and along that toolbar. The next tab is summary. So anybody got an idea what summary does? Yeah, well, yeah. Okay, this is what it's used for in most cases. Let's say a reporter tries to be creative and they write a one-word lead. What's that going to look like online? Online, it shows you the first paragraph. So you see a headline with one word underneath it, and that kind of looks goofy. So you can write something in the summary field that shows up on that landing page as the first paragraph. And then when they click inside the story, they'll see the one-word lead. Okay?
It's like a feature lead or something.
Yeah. Like, and that's another reason, like say somebody writes a feature story and it takes like 5 or 6 paragraphs to get to the point. You could write something that pulls them in a lot faster. And then when they click inside the story, they'll see that long lead that they used. Okay. Tagline. So taglines that go at the bottom of stories, they go in the tagline field. They don't go at the bottom of the story. The reason we put them in the tagline field is because it can display differently online and it will style like a tagline when it hits the InDesign page.
Is that like?
Yeah, or you see it at the bottom of columns. So-and-so writes for this publication, he can be reached at.
Maybe like sometimes a story that were like a series or something, taking from a previous story that someone else wrote. We say, I don't know, Mike Colshay contributed to this article. Or
Yeah.
something like that. That could be the type.
Yeah.
Could be a type of-
Contributing tagline at the bottom, that'd be good. Now, if it's an editor's note, you usually probably want that at the top of the story though, right? Okay.
Something like the blotter at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it that way if you want. You could also, and we're going to get into this in a little bit, under related and content, you have little related content boxes, and one of them is editor's note. So what it does is it creates the editor's note in a separate box and you can move it anywhere you want. Okay,
That includes, can you choose the font?
it chooses whatever your tagline font is for print. It's usually something like an italic something.
Yeah, and then it's,
That's it.
You don't have to do anything here. It just, if it's in the tagline field, it knows to style it like a tagline when it hits the InDesign page.
We're not saying it.
I don't, yeah, we're using it, so under.
Yeah, we don't see that, yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay, but then.
So I'm
Favor them, but. It's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you put
I'm
that in
really
the
on
arrow.
how
Like the arrow.
Yeah.
So that
taking notes on it because it's.
Oh, under 5 and 5.
Oh,
There's always things.
there's too many things. We don't use the fancy stuff.
And some of these you won't use, but tell me the ones that you will use, like, editor's notice one that you've mentioned.
Yeah.
If you go, it's usually a very popular one. It's something like if there's a festival this weekend, you do what, where, when, how much it can cost, little bulleted box. Yeah. So that's a separate box that will land on the page and you can move it wherever you want.
Is this where we also do the photo?
Yeah, because there's poke quote down here. Usually I see bio boxes during election time. You know, things like that. Or if you do some kind of a weekly feature, like a neighbors feature, this person's name, title, all that stuff. Just the facts is usually like a generic info box. They always have this one correction in here, but I usually, if it's really important, maybe, but I would say just go in and correct the story for online purposes rather than put a box there that says this error happened here and leave the error. That doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, I guess related to that, sometimes like if we run a correction, we correct it online, but the actual like correction note, we don't necessarily have to put online. If we fix that file, we just have to put it in print. So is there a way to put something just to print and not publish on the website?
And when we were talking about workflows before, one of the workflows, everything is going to be in web and print. There's another one here that says print only. And that prevents the story from going online at every stage of the workflow. So for things you don't want to go online, sometimes maybe you do some kind of syndicated columnist or something you don't have the rights to put on your website. You put it as print only. Okay, so we were talking about tagline. Next is teaser. Sometimes online, where do I see it the most? Maybe you put a police blotter online and you want there to be some kind of little icon image on the landing page. You could hit upload and it will upload that little icon, like a picture of handcuffs or something like that. Doesn't show up in print, but it will show up as a little teaser images on the website.
So one problem we have with the old website was that if we didn't, like include a photo and if we ever tried posting it anywhere, it would consider it spam. So it would like, we would put it on Facebook and it would get taken down because it didn't have an actual featured image. Is there any sort of like protection with that through like blocks or?
And that's not going to prevent something else from not showing it, like Facebook, because it's the teaser image. I don't think is going to go to Facebook. I mean, as far as going on your website now, you guys set the rules for what that is.
Okay.
I don't think you're going to have the issues that you had before. There will be some, like, you can set a rule to where it won't show up at the top of a web page in that carousel.
Yeah.
Unless it has a photo. You can set those rules.
Okay.
But it will show up in the listing of all the stories.
Okay, gotcha.
So we have like things for lifestyle, like for their library news, have like a little icon of books or something, like cute little things like, you know.
Sure.
Is that something, Jackie, if we,
Would that be a snippet though, or would that be?
For the InDesign page, it would be a snippet. For the website, I would say you'd use the teaser and throw it up there. You don't necessarily need it as part of the actual story, but on the landing page so people can see it and it might pull them in. Sure.
Access to those image files outside of InDesign, we need them in like VR or something, right?
Which
yeah, or
they
the
are right.
police
They are,
blotter
okay.
cutter,
I've never looked for either.
Yeah.
I know they were
and
there.
stuff, oh, that'd be.
Then we have cover art and you upload it the same way. It's an image. What cover art is like a picture that goes behind your story. So let's say I go here Yeah, it's like a background. Pictures. This is how Mystic gets in all these pictures. It's best with a horizontal. Yeah, there she is. So now if I save this and I view this, it's the picture behind it.
Oh. But wait, is that for the whole? Wait a get fancier. Is that for the whole story or just the headline and the byline?
It's just up there, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a way to change the font from white to black if we want to use a lighter colored image?
Exactly.
Probably not. Well, I'm gonna say it's not easy. It's not gonna be for every user, but you could probably get with somebody at customer service that would actually give you HTML that you could put into the story. You could actually, they'll give you like an HTML code that you could do it with. I wouldn't think that's good for every user, but somebody who knows a little bit, you could probably do it. Okay, social. So you can put information that's going to go to social media. So this would be the title that goes to Facebook. This will be the summary that goes to Facebook. Not what's your first paragraph, because maybe you don't want the first paragraph going to Facebook. You want it to be something completely different. So you could fill in this information, and this is what goes to social media. It will go with whatever is a child asset.
Yeah.
It would go with it. Yeah, it would automatically go with it.
And this social is just Twitter, right? That's what.
Facebook or Twitter.
How do I choose them?
You don't do that here.
No.
You set up channels. Do you guys use Notifier right now to send to Facebook?
Yeah.
There's a way to link any Facebook accounts in BLOX to where you can schedule it to go at different times. And it will automatically be sent through BLOX.
We do that through here.
Well, not through this. Right here is just sending what information is going to go there. There's a notifier. It's not in here right now because you guys don't have any accounts set up for it, but we can turn it on and link a few accounts and I can show you how to use that. Okay, we can do that over the next few days. But yeah, we can link accounts. Twitter is a little bit more problematic because they keep changing the rules in Twitter. So I think that Twitter send actually, you can embed things now. For a while, we couldn't because they changed everything in Twitter so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have just Facebook.
Facebook is much easier. But you just need to put in the credentials in Notifier and then send all it'll send the information. You could actually tell it everything with this section tag automatically goes and you don't have to schedule it. So there's ways of getting all your stuff to go to social media, or you could just choose whatever stories you want to go there. SEO stands for search engine optimization. So if you fill this in, basically Google gives you more credit. They give you extra credit. Google searches every story anyway, and every story gets indexed. And we do some of that information for you. But if you fill in this information, you'll show up higher in search results. Okay.
So this is different from the keywords thing here.
Yeah, keywords, again, Google gives you extra credit for good keywords. Google will penalize you for bad keywords, so don't use bad. And when I say bad, like years and years ago, people would write a story and then put like Britney Spears on it, so it shows up higher in search results. But now Google knows, hey, that story has nothing to do with Britney Spears, and they'll penalize you for doing it. So good keywords, good idea.
Let's be set to automatically fill something in the box, like our first paragraph and our headline for the SEO title and description. Like that's what it would show like on the SERP, right?
Yeah, but there's no way to autofill that, at least right now, there isn't. In the future, and when I say in the future, BLOX Next is coming out, and you'll see BLOX NXT, And some, I wouldn't even call it beta testing. It's more like alpha testing. They're still doing a lot of work with it. The whole interface is different than this, but it has a lot of those functions that you're talking about there, where it can autofill certain things. It has AI built into it in certain areas, which I'm for and against in certain areas.
Would we have to get new training? Like,
That's what I was.
yeah.
It's-
Like, you know.
Yeah, it would not be like, it would probably be online, and there's gonna be a lot of videos too, so you can watch videos. And some of those videos even exist now. If you want to see it a little bit, I can show you, because we've been playing with it. It's new to us too.
Yeah.
The programmers and the developers are doing it, and some sites are using it as testing, but it's dramatically different. One thing that's kind of nice though is certain things, like I can take a picture on my desktop and just drag it onto the screen and it's in the story. It uploads automatically. So some really nice features to it. But yeah, there's a little bit of training.
When is that coming out?
It's actually out now. If you wanted it, you could have it, but I would say you don't want it yet.
No, we're having a hard enough time with this.
Yeah.
Give that.
You anticipate probably a few years since you're still in alpha, or?
No, it'll be quicker than that. And you can make the transition anytime, and it does work within design, but right now there's still some limitations that's why I say I wouldn't do it yet.
Right.
So, down here, bottom left, start date and time, really important. So we want to set that to the earliest possible time you want your story to be seen online. Display priority. Do you guys use that at all?
One issue that I've been having is that, and I tried to do it with different times, I tried to do it, like, typically on our old website, we had either featured stories, or we had top stories, or front page.
Uh-huh.
And so that you guarantee that the top 3 stories on your front page will be the first things that people see. And I've been having trouble with this. I've tried display priority after the fact and before, changing the time and things, but still, if I put everything at, like, say, midnight or 12:15, I'll get things that are a lot less of a priority at the top, and my top stories farther down, and I
Yeah.
don't know how to. That's happening.
There's certain rules that go with those spots. Like it will look at, is there a photo? And then it'll also look at what are the flags that you put on it. And then it'll also look at the time that it is. And then it'll look at display priority. So it's all those things working together. And I'd have to see what rules that yours are set up
So-
with.
Have that feature
Yeah,
thing.
well, I
It's
didn't before
activated.
though. I didn't before on the other side either. But
Right, but here they added Clarence and Cantons, but the other papers don't even have it. So we have to add it for all the papers.
does that make it then the stories are at the top?
The feature, yeah.
I think that Holly was waiting for more people to start using the featured flag before she put it on their sites. Because otherwise it just showed up as like a blank box, or pulled stuff from other websites to do it.
Holly over in Batavia is doing your stuff. Yeah.
Choose feature. So I don't
I
think.
know it's a flag cover, but
You can have a flag.
yeah, flags.
Everybody has flags. They have to.
Then if I do-
It depends what the rules are written as. Top story doesn't necessarily mean it's the top story. It's just a different flag that can do different things. Featured is usually the ones that most sites use, featured.
I'm sorry.
I think the featured, they'll put up a block kind of like this, where you got your featured news, and then it's a little splashier, a little more colorful, and
Oh,
bigger headlines, so you can see them.
that's the hot.
It draws, that's for featured, but when they put, once you've flagged enough stories as featured, I think that Holly will activate that section on your site.
Okay.
Whenever we upload, just to make sure, whenever we want something on the website, we have to unclick do not publish even like.
No, as stories move through the workflow, do not publish is going to uncheck on its own. And I can make that happen whenever you guys tell me. Usually what I do is when it hits design, I uncheck it. At that point, it's been edited once. And you guys should have the start date and time set to whenever you want it to actually show up. So unchecking it would do nothing if it hasn't reached the start date time. So I usually have it set at design. If you guys want it something different, just let me know.
If we, so say we forgot to hit feature, but things are already on the site. And if we go back and hit it after the fact, will it move it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It usually takes about 10 minutes for the site to catch up with the change that you made in the system, but it will catch up.
And also just so you know, if a story is live on your website and you change the time to the future, it takes it off your website. If a story is live on your website and you went in and manually check do not publish, that'll take it off your website. You could also move it to a print only workflow and that would remove it because it would check do not publish.
And now when we have the feature thing, those that come at the top, I really don't use priority. So I mean, that's okay, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only time you'd really use priority is if all those other things are identical. You have featured and you send all those stories at the exact same time, and maybe they're not in the right order that you want, then you use the priority numbers.
I guess my question with the priority numbers, that doesn't just affect the front page, right? It affects the section. Like if you're on like the news section and you have your list of stories there, it's not just the front page that gets affected by that.
So are we using that or not?
I am because I want them to be in like the most important stuff at the top when I'm in the section, but I don't think anyone has to as a page editor.
And they usually suggest, I don't know if they explained it to you, but they typically start at like 99 as the top story and it goes backwards, although they can change that. So I don't know if they did 1, 2, 3, you know,
I
like
have
that.
1 through 5 for us.
Okay.
With 1 as the top priority.
I would do like 1, 10, 20, 30. And that way, if you get stories that come in later, you can slot them in there. Because right now you get a story that's later, then you have to change 5 to or 4 to 5, and you have to renumber everything.
I only have the 5 like we have multiple. I do multiple things labeled as 1, like my front page stories are all labeled 1, and then my least local stuff is all labeled 5 or stuff like that. But
Do that. But those numbers, they're you can put gaps within them. It'll take numbers all the way from 1 to 100. Okay. Okay, so we went through all these tabs. We went through this. We're on the print tab. Let's see, we're at 10:24. And I did remember, how about we take a little bathroom break and we come back in 10 minutes? Okay.
Right.
It's like that.
I need water.
To get out of here, we're on this way.
I moved. I said,
The interns are just getting younger and younger. The famous.
She's like, I know what's in that container. Don't know this person.
Hi, Jane.
This is all great information for you. I'm not gonna be doing all that.
Would I tell people like do design but never get into here? It's good to know where other people messed up. When it gets to you and it's not working correctly,
Meet you.
I
you'll
usually
kind of,
go right back to the editor and say, this ain't working. What did you do wrong?
yeah, well, now you'll kind of know what they did wrong. Doesn't mean you have to fix it, but at least you can say this wasn't correct.
So I know I asked you this yesterday, but is there gonna be a way that I can watch this again later on?
That's why I got the earbuds in.
Where is it, Teams?
It's Teams, so there'll be a download somewhere and I will tell Heather
Got
where
it.
it is and she'll forward it on to people.
Thank you.
Oh, that's right.
Tomorrow I'll be taking
I'm just
notes
talking about,
because you'll be in
I don't
design.
really know much about her, but I was like.
Design's more fun anyway.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
not gonna.
So I started off on the YouTube and
Jack,
done the simplest.
set up it.
Yeah.
Stuff, internet and stuff like that.
Apparently she is like an illegitimate, like
And
teacher
I'm
though, I
doing-
think, so.
Yeah, I think she was like school.
Which
I'm
makes
doing
sense,
it.
that, like there is some sort of.
And I do ask for outside of our paper. I'm the person that has to do all the as far as.
And I guess, like, Part of the reason behind it
Okay.
is like her.
So, I'm busy.
person, I think like.
I don't have
learned
time
that,
to
like, her,
pay attention to all this.
Oh, yeah.
learned how to talk really late.
Oh, okay,
So
gotcha.
that was
I've
like
been
her
the other
reason
way.
for.
You work here full time, and then I take care of your dying mother full time. I'm like
It probably
And I was
helps
just
a lot.
around and,
all over the place.
Yeah,
Which is-
probably helps with like the divide and like access to care.
Schedules. It sounds like they're going to stick with what they have for a while,
That's what Heather told me.
but I would imagine being that the rest of the kids school up here is
Want to stretch your legs a little bit?
at some point. But I think for right now, they're just keep going with what they have and see how that works for them.
Are they like a daily paper?
Yes.
But that's all right. It takes care of, the university.
Yes, certainly.
Beautiful area.
Down the road for all we know.
I do better. Wait, time.
I was like, they caught me in a state of panic a couple weeks ago because they moved all the old computers and bought 2 new ones and didn't tell us at all. So, yeah, then he was on site saying we took his paper out today, and I was like, I didn't even know he bought that paper.
Yeah, that's why I was rejecting, because my PC out there died Monday. It wouldn't even start in the morning.
Oh,
So I'm bouncing around to whatever PC's open to lay out papers.
and did Gerald look at it?
Oh, he took them.
Oh, okay.
We don't have it. So at the moment, I
I
don't.
think that's what he was
don't
asking
have
about
some.
yesterday.
Oh.
Said he wanted a new computer,
Oh, okay.
probably hers.
So I'm not in the system yet. You don't have me in there.
Your email might be in there. As far as your user.
Got it.
I don't know.
It's probably in there.
Because I'm not touching anything, I don't know. We have another lady who's retiring, so I think they're gonna switch me to her computer, but then I gotta take all of her stuff. Get mine in, so. She's only got 6 days left.
Hmm.
Yes, everybody has wandered off. I stuck. For everybody's course. And then other course.
I see why you say the max you prefer is the 9 people in a training.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, they can break off into little side discussions.
exactly what's happening.
Yeah. The, when I did, Puerto Rico, they would, I'd say something and they'd break off into like separate discussion groups and they'd all be Spanish. So I didn't know what they were talking about. They speak English really well. But sometimes, if I decided to get Southern or something, they would know the certain phrases and things like that. So that could lose them. And then they'd have little discussions and everything. And I usually knew when they were done actually discussing important stuff because then everybody would start laughing and talking about stuff. And that had to kind of rein them back in. And when they went live, they were in the newsroom and everything in Spanish. So I didn't know if there were any problems unless I saw somebody who was having.
I don't even know what you're talking about. It sounds hilarious.
Yeah, I did an install in Puerto Rico. And they all speak English, but it's not their first language. So they would, when they went live, everything was Spanish and I'm just sitting there in the middle of the newsroom trying to figure out if everybody was doing okay.
Seems okay right now, nothing, I think that we're gonna, set our hair on fire, until we get to probably layout.
It's still in design, so it shouldn't be dramatically, it's just how you get the stories and getting them on the page. And I don't know how Scoop really worked. Did it style things as it put it on the page? Was it styled already somehow?
Style.
What did you type them in? Scoop? Okay, so it has its own word processor in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be simple.
I mean, as far as, layout goes and, they would do what they do.
Yeah. How many pages does the newsroom actually do? Yeah.
That's, Amherst is probably 20 pages. Other papers are 12, 16. So it's just,
Usually 2 pages classified, no?
well, that varies too. We have legals.
Yeah.
So I mean, for a typical week, I never even thought about it. It's a lot of pages for all the papers.
I heard that production does like the covers and anything that has jumps on them. So how many does the newsroom actually do?
Well, the editors do like page 2 or 3. They do like a block of page, anything that's simple. But I think with this change, we'll be doing more layout. So,
Do you do like the opinion page and
no, they do that.
they do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, doesn't look that difficult, it's just box, it's a box editorial, columnist. It doesn't look like it's that difficult, but they do that.
So when they do them, you guys proof them after?
Yeah.
How do you normally proof them?
We print the pages.
And then you just mark them up and they fix them?
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as the number of pages, production does most of them now. Second week.
Good time to learn a new system. You didn't have time enough to learn the old one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like in Scoop, for example, like I do the opens, and there's, open headline, open text. I mean, all those, kind of to the side for whatever you're writing. Body copy, different headlines, so.
Well, the good thing about ours is you won't have to style like obit headline, obit text. It knows the headline because it's in the headline field, knows the text because it's in the text field. And because you labeled it as an obituary, because the section tag is going to have obituary, it says, oh, it's an obit. So it styles it like an obit.
Lightsabers.
You got another minute.
Is that the Jade?
Oh, no, it's hurricane.
It's hard.
That's okay, I even with chocolate anyway. And I have been,
I don't give her Jack candy till whatever.
it's been 4 months. No chocolate.
Oh, God, why? I mean, good for you, girl. Why? Why would you do that to yourself?
But I feel great now.
And you're still smiling.
I start smiling, I know.
It's taking up a lot of space. Push him down a little bit beyond the letter.
What's your, I forget.
That's okay.
Oh,
But he's got like 2 spaces.
yeah.
So we can slide him down and then. We can dance. And then slide down.
Yeah, we should be there 4 of us here.
Right.
This is sometimes simple.
I know, right? No, I got 2 that. No, but I. This one have to be
And
training.
Mark was asking how many pages we put out per week. The food, never thought about it.
Well, per paper is like.
Well, yeah, I told him that for paper, but I mean, think about it, it depends on the week.
That might.
If that was.
We do a rough estimate.
So we can turn, what's the sliding? The sliding. So that Bob can be, or there's more room.
That No, I think they're not.
I usually use the other one.
Average be like $150 a week.
I don't bring.
For all of like printing them. Some are learning over about 21 pages, some are like 12 pages, usually.
Well, I was kind of asking, like, how many does production do and how many does the newsroom do? And I was under the impression the newsroom did more, but no, that's not the case.
Yeah, they do some, we do.
Yes.
Not stuff.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to.
It's not just like I have one, because I have nice stuff to close this to.
Oh,
I was looking for a different carrier, having you two mix, like, none of the ones that are actually on like something else.
Okay, so we went through the story area, we went through the print tab, now we're gonna go through the tags tab. So the first option here are section tags, and when you choose add, you're gonna add a section tag, and you guys should be doing this already. You can have more than one section tag. Does it matter the order that they're in? A little bit. The first one gets the credit. So if you're counting page impressions or clicks, the one, like if you had a story that was a sports story and a news story, the section tag that was first would get the credit, the click. So you can have as many section tags as you want. Section tags might also control how a story gets styled when it gets put on the page. If you have an obituary section tag, it says, oh, it's an obituary. It'll style it like an obituary when you put it on the page. So it'll style that way. That's our first option for styling things, is to use section tags. If it's a letter to the editor, you probably have a letters to the editor section tag. No?
We're missing a bunch of tags, things we actually do have. Letters to the editor. We do something called a spindle.
Hmm.
And like our column type of thing, we don't have that. We don't have out of the past. We don't have lifestyles. Like it's arts and entertainment, but it's not like.
Lifestyles.
Oh, we do, sorry. Okay. But. So then just
Yeah.
put that, and like the police blotter, we just have been putting under news because we don't know where to put it.
And I'm not sure you'd want to put it under police blotter. The only reason is it's good to have sections that are packed with stuff. If you go to a section tag and there's only one thing there, people probably won't go to it that often. So they'll keep coming back for news. Lifestyles, if you have a lot of stories, yeah, lifestyles make sense. Letters to the editor. Sometimes maybe you don't get that many letters, so it could be stagnant. Maybe you'd have just, yeah, that would make more sense because it,
Yeah.
But if you found that you had a lot of letters and you wanted to break it up into a separate section, sure, you could do that.
It's pretty.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Amy, I think in your lifestyles, that's where your youth and recreation column would probably come under.
Yeah.
Your
I think we can have
lifestyle,
lifestyle, yeah. But like spindles, or out of the past, initially we were saying news, but then it was popping up before stories.
Right.
So I think we should keep it like, we have three things on our main opinion page. Editorial, spindle, and out of the past. I feel like, it's up to you guys, but to keep that still under opinion, just because that's what it is in the regular paper.
I've been putting out of the past in the lifestyle, because technically it's not opinion, but it's also not news because it's old stuff.
Yeah, and it's also being about the stories. Okay.
I don't know, I feel like it, for web it fits there, but I don't know if that's the way we want to go forward with it.
Yeah, so section tags can drive how things get styled. Slugs can also drive that. Like we might say, okay, anything you want to be a letter to the editor, end the slug with hyphen letter. And I'll say, oh, it's a letter to the editor, and it'll style like a letter. So some of that stuff, Dave and I are going to be building over the next few days. And as we build them, we'll kind of let you guys know what you need to do to get it to style correctly.
Wait, no, I'm jumping ahead, I'll wait.
That's okay.
I was looking at the presentation thing back when we first got blocks, and I was trying to use that for our columnists to have where it says personality to emphasize the author, but it didn't really do anything.
It's supposed to change like the type of headline, possibly the size or the color, how the photos appear or where they appear. And all that stuff is customizable. So probably the first person to talk to would be Holly, because she'll set up certain specific rules. And if she doesn't know how, then she usually gets with our customer service people. Um, people will ask me stuff about the website, and I'm like the print guy. You know, I don't know a lot about the website. I know a lot about the website, but I don't know some of those details. And a lot of those things are so customizable. When I go to one site, it's completely different at the next site. So if you have questions that deal with the web, ask me. And if I don't know the answer, I'll get you with the person who does.
Do we have an option to choose the font we want or no? Just whatever programmed in here, right?
No, it's what's there. I mean, technically your browser can choose the font, but it's not just for blocks, it'd be for everything. So if you wanted to change the appearance of text on your thing, but you're not going to choose a font for publication. You're going to type in whatever's there. And when it gets put on the InDesign page, based on the rule sets that we build, it knows how to style it when it gets on the page.
So if we do use a dark color background, we can't change it to white.
When it hits the page, you can. You can change it to whatever you want on the InDesign page. Okay. But in the browser, when you're entering stories, it's just whatever the body text is, you can do normal or heading 3, something like that. That's all you're really going to style. All the other stuff happens behind the scenes.
Okay, so will we have options? Well, right now in this one, we have like alphabetical bold, Times New Roman, for depending on what kind of a story it is.
Sure, you have all that stuff.
We have-
All the same paragraph styles that you had before, you still have the same paragraph styles. Okay. We're changing the name of a few of them, only because like you had your headlines were Helvetica something. Well, they're not Helvetica anymore. You guys changed it to Arial.
Yeah.
So we changed the names to match that.
Is it T1?
Yeah. Okay. Keywords. So you can add keywords to your story. If you don't add keywords, it's not going to hurt anything. But again, Google gives you extra credit if you put good keywords on your story. And good keywords would be something like if you're doing a story about school, maybe you put the school district name or something like that. It's not in the story, but a good keyword because it relates to your story. Geolocations you will not use.
Can you put phrases in keywords?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Sites you will not use. Sites are a way to send stuff from one domain to another. Like you could send all your stuff, or not all of it, but some stuff from your domain to Batavia. You could just transfer it to them if you wanted to. Flags, you already know flags. Flags are how a story will display once it gets online. Do we do anything with flags in print? Not really. We could if you wanted to. Like if you were to choose centerpiece, I could do something special with it when it hits the page. Like an exploding first paragraph with a drop cap and all that stuff. I could do that if you wanted to. There is one that does make sense down here that's web and print. There's a web only flag. When something is marked as web only, in the asset manager that used in InDesign to place a story, it won't list that story if you mark it as web only. So if you, let's say you have 5 photos attached to a story, but you only want one of them in print, you could mark the other ones as web only.
This and where you're choosing this web only.
Under flags,
In the other tab, I think it was print only.
Oh,
print
workflow.
only, okay.
yeah, that's the workflow. That's different.
Before we finish today, like later in this session, can we just go start to finish through like what we would do for workflow, like when we're putting an article together?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move to the related tab. And the first option there, child assets. 99% of the time, the child asset is going to be a photo that goes with the story. Okay. The photos are either going to be JPEGs, PNGs, or TIFFs. Can't use anything else but those. There is a 10 megabyte, roughly 10 megabyte size limit. But if you're using something bigger than a 10 megabyte JPEG, then you need to size it down anyway. It's too big.
What'd you say, JPEG?
JPEG, PNGs, or TIFFs. JPEGs are the preferred. PNGs, nothing wrong with those. TIFFs tend to be larger sizes that you don't necessarily need.
Sometimes we get the HEIC or something.
Those
Oh,
are
yeah.
compressed from your phones.
You gotta save it to your phone.
Yeah.
It's annoying. They watch sports.
There are conversion things online that you
Yeah, it's
could
free.
convert them. I do think that in BLOX Next, it's actually gonna basically expand them and put them in there. That's something that they were working on. But it was so new that Macs did it one way and Androids did it a different way, and I think they're coming to a consensus on how that's gonna be done. So also child assets could be things like audio, tables, video, PDFs. So you would upload that in here as an asset. So if I wanted to add one photo, I could do add image. It opens the shell of a photo. I could click add image file, find an image, and upload it. And then I fill in the blanks here.
So you put the same headline that, like, if the story, the photos of the story, you put the same headline that the story is?
It could, I mean, it could be something different. It could be something specific to that photo. The slug, I would put the same as the story. The photos can be different. So you just want the headline to match what's in the photo. Presentation here is different than presentation of a story. None means it's a regular photo. Mugshot says take this photo and put it in a mugshot size box on the page. And it displays differently online also.
Where you get?
Inside the photo, down here under presentation. All these other things do something online, cutout, panorama, masthead. It's whatever they tell it to do online.
Okay.
It doesn't do anything in print unless you want it to. I can make it do something, but it's kind of customizable. I'll do what you want it to do. The only ones that are set to do something right now is none, which means it's a regular photo, and mugshot.
Okay.
Mugshot does not crop a photo in. It just takes that photo and puts it in a mugshot size box. Okay. The caption is where you put your caption for the photo. And I think I saw you guys put your credits after.
Yeah,
Is it on the next line? I saw some where it was,
that's fine.
okay, that makes it easier for me. I'll make sure that it automatically goes there. You're gonna put the credit in the byline field. The byline of a photo is the photo credit. When it gets put on the InDesign page, I will put it at the bottom of the cut line. But for online purposes, you want to put it in the byline field.
So we don't have to put it in the caption.
Correct. If you put it in the caption and the byline field, it's going to be in there twice, and you won't want that. By putting it in the byline field, then I can style it like your photo credit.
Design as well.
In InDesign, it goes to the bottom of the cut line, and then when you make changes to it, when it saves back, it'll save back into the byline field. Over here on the right, you can upload like a color CMYK photo, black and white photo if you wanted to. So let's say, do you guys tone photos on?
We don't.
Yeah, they got you.
We do.
You do. How do you tone them? Just on the page?
In Photoshop, save them as tips and then it's imported in.
Save them as a TIFF?
Yeah.
Any reason?
What we've always done.
Okay. I hate that phrase.
And it helps us to know because like usually it comes in as a JPEG or a PNG. And if you see that it's tipped, we know that it's most likely already done and seeing like, hey.
Okay. You say you do it in Photoshop. Do you do it on the page in Photoshop?
Just separately and save by name. And then we would bring them into InDesign by whatever name.
Okay, this might be a little easier for you because you're just gonna tone them directly from the InDesign page using Photoshop. So just click on a photo and it opens in Photoshop, you make your changes, and it just updates on the page.
So I have to wait till they're done with their pages completely and then go in and do it.
They can do it.
Could we do it beforehand if we wanted to, just to save time on production days when things are crazy? And we have 150 pages going out, you know?
Yeah. You could put it in a certain folder, as long as it's named the same as the photo that's in blocks. When it hits the page, it'll look in that folder and it'll swap out automatically. with
I
the
would
place.
love to do that if possible. It would really save me a lot of time.
Sure, do that.
For Batavia's, like they have 8 pages or whatever, we have 24s and, you know, it's gonna take a long time.
Okay, we can do that.
Thank you.
But I think you can also look up assets, right? Just a list of all the images. Can they get it that way?
They can, but that would be, if you're uploading them, it's probably just as easy for you as you're uploading to put a copy in a different folder that they can tone. Because you're gonna be uploading the photos, right, into blocks. So as you're uploading there, you put a copy in for them.
So that we know to go to that copy folder to retouch it.
So
fix
we're-
it before.
We're still sending photos to you guys first.
In a copy folder.
No, we're not emailing them anymore.
No,
We're not emailing them anymore.
so what are we doing? But how do we, normally right now with photos or stories, we forward them in an email to production. They do whatever they do and they're available for us to then include.
Like we store them BR news and then the folder of the week and they're all in there. We drag them on the page.
So right now you don't connect your photos to the story in Scoop in any way? Okay. Well, we'll think about it. We'll figure out the best way to do it. Okay. Because they have to be uploaded into blocks. It would be, in some cases, a really good idea if they're edited before they go into blocks, because the sizes might not be correct. You don't want to upload gigantic photos in blocks. So,
Blocks needs RGB.
I hope so. I would like to do them beforehand, like I said, because like your paper's 24, 28 pages and do every single photo when I'm trying to get something out the door. I'd rather do it.
So like for a moment and still email them to you or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Until we decide, until he decides how we're gonna do things.
yeah, we'll decide. Photos, you don't need section tags on photos. You don't need flags on photos. If they're attached to stories, they go along for the ride. Okay, so you don't need to add that stuff. If it's a standalone photo, then, and you want it to go on as a standalone online, then yeah, section tags and all that. But if it's just a child asset, you don't need all that other information. Start date and time, don't need to adjust that either. Just, it'll go with the story.
You do a drag and drop or no?
Drag and drop to create.
For a picture.
No, you can in Blocks Next when that comes out, but right now, no, you have to click and then upload. There is, like right there, I did one photo. Let's say, because you guys don't go out and shoot one photo, you go out and shoot a bunch of photos. You would choose add and you would do batch upload. Then you click add files and you can multi-select from here what photos you want. Click open and it uploads all of them at one time.
So that's one of the things we haven't been figuring out.
You'd have to go into each one and write the caption, although if you do it in Photoshop beforehand, I don't know if you have Photoshop, but if you do, it will pull in that metadata from the photo. From here, I mean, I can actually go into this photo
Oh, you just click it.
and do it that way. If I click done right now, they're all
Oh.
here. And I could do it here.
Okay.
And I can also reorder them here too. You can drag them around in the
When you-
list.
Now, when you click it, will it show you the photo?
Yeah,
Okay.
so like that. And you should be able to mouse over the photo
Oh,
to see which one it is. The author field from a photo goes to the photo credit. The file info description goes to the cut line. And document title goes to the headline of a photo. So you can add as many child assets as you want. You also have sibling assets. And if you click add, you add them the same way. Anybody know what a sibling is? Okay.
An only child.
They're both new information, so they're siblings.
Correct. A sibling is, in pretty much all cases, a story that's already run. So you're in sports, I'm covering the game. I wrote a preview earlier in the week. The preview could be a sibling. So up at the top left of your story on the website, so if I went in here and I added a sibling, something that's already in the system, like not a letter to the editor. How about this one? And I do add selected assets. When I save, let me just make sure that I didn't uncheck anything. Good. When I click view, the sibling shows up here as a clickable hyperlink
So we
for that story.
do that, like say there's an ongoing issue, development, that people are fighting or something like that. So we've done multiple stories on it. This is an update. That would be an example of when we would.
Sure.
Okay.
And I assume this is also good for SEO because the internal linking builds more like search credibility.
Sure. Yeah. And it's good for series, 5-part series. You can have all the previous ones. They look nicer if there's images involved. Like if this one had a photo, there'd be a little image there. There's other ways of doing it. You could just put a hyperlink to the story, but this makes it stand out a lot more. It looks nice.
So sibling is a good for if it's like over like a few years. Like sometimes the issue like the Huntley power plant is going on for like 3-4 years.
No, I think that'd still be a good sibling because people might want to, it won't be fresh in their mind. And here's a story that's given them information from a few years ago.
Is there?
I don't think there is should. Yeah, I mean, you probably wouldn't want more siblings than the amount of text you have. It would kind of odd. But yeah, I guess for some really big issues, although you could have a sibling is this story, and then this story had siblings, so they clicked on this one, they would see more siblings. So you could go back through and do it that way.
So is that all just?
You won't have access to them.
Okay.
It's not, I don't know if it deletes. The scoop we won't have access to, right, from next week?
Well, we might be able to get on it, but we won't be using it.
They won't be using a
You can see
webcam.
like what's
Stories?
on.
Yeah, I think we should be able to at least see what the
Like
older
old
stuff.
stuff.
That was, so we still have access to that.
We should.
Are you guys moving your archive from your website to BLOX website?
It's a big one.
Oh, it might be, could, yeah, it might be the, I mean,
Yeah, if that's the case, there's that us.
they would have had to custom build some kind of parser to get it to recognize what that was written in and get it to work in a block site. So there could have been a fee with that. Parent assets. If you know how to do child and sibling, you know how to do parent because it's the same way. So what is a parent asset? It's really just a backwards way of doing a child. A reporter opens up a story and connects the photo as a child. Photographers tend to open up their photo and connect the story as a parent. So it's really just a backwards way of doing it. If I budget it for a page, the page is also seen as a parent. So it's showing me what page this one's budgeted for. Links. If I click add, I can put some text here and a URL. So let's say I'm doing a story about cancer. I could put American Cancer Society and then their URL and it shows up at the bottom of the story. So that's where I think it's used more for sourcing. So a reporter can say, this is where I got my information and where you could get more information.
Did you add a comment to it?
No, it's just a link. It
Shows
just-
in the bottom,
It shows up at the bottom of stories,
design or no?
not in InDesign, just web only. Comments, I don't think you guys are gonna be using the town news commenting system. This was a way that you could approve or disapprove, but most people just let that happen on Facebook and kind of ignore this. Content, these are these related content boxes we talked about earlier. So bio box, if you want to do a pull quote, you would choose pull quote and you type your quote in here. This is the quote. Hard return name, hard return title, something like that.
Just see like a quote.
What that does
Okay.
is
Yeah.
it creates a box on the InDesign page that you can move anywhere you want within the story.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, what this does?
How is supposed to?
It creates a box on the InDesign page for the pull quote, and you can move it anywhere you want in the story.
Okay,
Okay.
We don't move from there.
And what does it do online?
yeah.
Well, it does this.
Yeah, we don't know.
So I'm gonna do this
We physically have.
Yeah, I mean,
so you can see it better.
What I thought, but like.
see this, that's a pull quote.
They use
like-
Devon's soup too, so kind of you're using like the little bars at the top to sort it.
So the pull quote would show up like this,
Okay, so just like,
although I didn't think I bolded that, but maybe I did.
in case, okay, just in case people just want to see it. All
Yeah,
right.
just makes it big text.
But that's also for online, right?
No, that's also print. It comes on the print page. I don't know why that did.
It was, but like, what is?
What is true?
We have a question about that.
Okay,
Accurate.
it will be. I just threw a number in there, but it will be accurate based on your body copy.
That's inches, basically?
Inches.
Okay.
It'll be your inch count.
Is it also include the headline or no?
It does not include the headline.
Oh, that's why it's different, they just kind
Okay, that makes sense now.
So, do you guys ever use inline assets? Have you learned how to do that? Okay, so let's say I have my photo right here. Let's say I don't want it at the top of my story online. I want it somewhere within the story. I can take it and drag it into the story and put it exactly where I want it.
There were photos in between paragraphs, like farther down. It copied them automatically and then it showed up.
Yeah, I can see that. And then once it's there, you can also right click, edit display properties, and you can tell it to align to the center. You can tell it how wide to be, like not the full web page. You can do half the web page. And click apply. And now when I look at it, that one photo is not going to be up here in the carousel anymore. It's down here. Okay.
We don't, is that the carousel?
This is. Boom.
Oh.
So it took the photo out of that and put it down here.
We used to, on our old website, have like a carousel, like the automatically or a slideshow kind of thing.
Okay.
It was photos from like top 3 different stories. That automatically they did. Is there a way that we can do that again or is that not?
Well, when you put something in featured, the stories show up there and go through. And they usually have photos. They look better with photos. But I don't know if there's anything set up that way just for photos, like the top photos. Do you guys do collections, like galleries? Okay,
I don't know if everyone has, a couple of us have played with it.
okay.
And we won't have, like wildcat, like standalone photos and wanted like 2 or 3 in one thing.
Mhm. Yeah, but if you go out and do like a July 4th package of photos, you could have that be a gallery or a collection and have it be just a ton. They actually have something called smart collections too, to where if you put similar keywords on them, they know that they belong to the same collection and it just grows as time goes on.
Is there a place?
Replacing the picture bank?
Collections can be placed on an InDesign page. So if you have like a snippet built with like 6 photos, 6 photo boxes, it will place them all in the boxes. So you can place an entire collection with one click rather than finding different photos.
Just link to it.
Mhm.
Where do you get the collection? Like,
It's-
tab or pull down?
It's another asset, so instead of an article, you do a collection. And then you add a whole bunch of photos to this collection. Yep. Okay, links, so content, along with content, I showed you inline photo assets. I can also drag the pull quote inline, so I can put the quote right next to the quote in the story if I wanted to. So instead of the pull quote showing up here where it was a minute ago, now it's put it on page 2. I thought I did. See the pull quote?
No, there it is.
So it shows up down here.
Where's content?
And you can, at the bottom of the related tab. So that's where pull quotes and info boxes and everything is. Yes.
Going back to, the child assets, when it's an image, when I upload images, there's like an option where it's like you can enable or disable like photo purchasing or something, is that option?
Photo sales.
Yeah, photo sales. Do we have like a policy for that? Because I know the B used to outsource like a company if someone ever wanted to buy the photo, but we don't do that
That was
anymore.
years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
just
don't do
didn't,
that.
oh yeah, I know we don't anymore. I was just wondering like,
So what we would probably do is set up to where the default is that sales are turned off. What it does is it makes it to where third-party programs can't scrape your site and take your
oh,
photos.
okay, so it's for that. It's not, I didn't know if like if they,
Yeah, I thought that's what it was for people who wanted to buy photos.
yeah, and I just, yeah,
What you said is more because you told us.
yeah, well, cause I was just curious. I'm like, are people like, I didn't know if people were like buying things and we would just never know about it. Cause I always, if it's not like a photo that someone from our organization took, I disable it. Cause I don't want, I was worried someone would end up like paying for like a stock image or like a press release photo or something. That's what I wanted to prevent. So I wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
I disable it for opens because
Yeah.
they want to buy.
Yeah.
The family around this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can make the default be that the sales are turned off. And if you guys ever go with something like Smug Mug or any of those,
I don't think anything's set up. I've heard of nothing. But they told me to enable this because people are gonna buy photo.
yeah, some of your sites use that, don't they? Like purchasing photos off the website?
Somebody did, you know,
Yeah.
while, I just wanted to.
Yeah.
But that sounds completely what it actually is.
Okay, so we went through the related tab. Now we're on the other tab. So we know what do not publish is. Disallow reactions, disallow user commenting, you will not use. That has to do with our commenting system. Further on down, there is a place for a delete date and time. So if you did want something to delete, you could come in here and set a date for it to delete. Just remember that if you delete something, it comes off your website, and usually you don't want that. But there might be something, I've seen people put it on like boil water advisories. You put it on there, people read it, no reason to keep that on the website. It's up to you.
We've got situations where people have been arrested and then my name is cleared. I want that off the website.
I don't know, you start doing that, and you're,
I've just, like, we have people that have gone to the publisher about.
yeah.
Do you have to unclick do not publish on the photos too?
No, because they're attached to the stories, and as long as they're placed on the page, they will also get promoted to the last stage of the workflow.
Yeah.
To check disallow reactions, disallow user comments, or we don't?
No.
really know?
You don't need to, because you're not using our commenting system, so it won't do anything.
Sorry, do we have to worry about the start date time for the photos too, or will that just go with the story?
That just goes with the story. Further on down, we have subheadline, kicker, and hammer, which we discussed earlier. Subheadline is a web subheadline. Kicker and hammer are both web and print. Down here under notifier, this is where you would schedule something to go to Facebook. if you had any accounts that were hooked up, you could go here and tell it what channel to go to, and it will send headline, and you could schedule it to go. So if you want to, I've done it before. I've helped people set up their accounts. You just have to have permissions you have to have your Facebook credentials, and we could end up doing it. Location, if you fill this in, and really all you need is like the address and the zip code, and it'll fill in the other stuff. You click geocode, and it creates a locator map with your story for online purposes. So it's only online. It's really good for new businesses, construction, accidents, things like that. But it's web only. Workflow, the two workflows that you're going to use, web and print only. The pages kind of just happens behind the scenes. Web and print means it's going to be eventually go on the web and in print. Print only prevents it from going on the website. Custom properties you will not use. Revisions, every time you save, there's a revision. And that's also revisions from the InDesign page. So every time the story is checked in from InDesign, there's a revision. We saved the last 50. Okay. We save a history of every time it was saved, but you can get into the last 50. So right now it's the current revision. If I want to get into a previous one, double click it, it opens up, and I can see what the story looked like at that point. It doesn't show me the differences between the two, but it does give me, this is the story at that time. It says on what date, what time, and who did it. So you can tell who made that revision.
Can you go back to the revision?
You can go back and look at them. And if you wanted, let's say somebody cut something out that you needed, you can go back here, copy the text and paste it in the current revision. That's what a lot of people do. But in most cases, people use the revisions to say, who did this to my story? So,
It's a log for everything. Was that?
So that could have worked for our issue yesterday where a couple paragraphs disappeared.
Yeah, I just
Right
wanted to
back
scoop.
in.
This is what it would do if somebody jumped wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, so we talked about workflow. When a reporter is done with a story, they could come to the workflow and they could promote it to the next step. The other way they can do it is the downward arrow on save. If they click that, they can promote to ready to edit, save, and close.
We're gonna move it to a different section in blocks or something like that.
It doesn't move it to a different section, but it makes it to where if you have a search built on ready to edit, you could just run that search and find only the stories that are in ready to edit. Yeah. So right now, if I promote to ready to edit, save, and close,
Okay.
so let's say I'm looking at all the assets in the system right now. So right now I'm looking at 3,000 something assets. If I only want to find stuff that's in ready to edit, I can scroll down here, go to workflow, and under, I think I did print only,
Okay.
ready to edit. Well, actually, I probably didn't. It must be web and print.
Here, scroll down.
But I could do
Where they put ready.
anything that's in ready to edit and anything that's in ready to edit there and do a search. And there's the stories. Now, if this is a search that I'm going to use all the time, I could go down to save searches and click the little plus. I can call this my ready to edit search. And click save.
So would that be? So right now, byline stories. Bob agrees, reporting or edit.
Okay.
From the editor. So instead of proof, like you were saying, because I've used ready to edit at other papers.
Mhm.
That would be basically this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can set up a search based on just stuff that's ready to edit. You can also search for stuff that's your stuff, like search for your author. In some cases, it would be better to do something like MARK space
Because we don't.
MCKILP. So if I do a search under search text, quote, Mark space McKillop, quote, it's looking for Mark McKillop when it's together like that in any story, which would be my byline. In any story I might have been arrested in or something like that. So
So when we, like, say, okay, we're starting from scratch, we're writing a story. Out of the gate. Do we keep it under draft? Do we have to click that? If we don't click any of these, does it do something specific? I mean, we'll have like do not publish, but
right.
other than that,
So when I'm going to create a new article right now. So I create this article. Do not publish is already set. I don't need to do anything there. So probably the first things I'm going to do, I'm going to go down here, the start date and time, and I'm going to set that for some future time. You may not know exactly what time, but if you do it in the future, you're going to be safe no matter what.
when it would post to the website.
Correct. You give it a web headline and you start writing your story. I'd also give it a slug. So do those. And then when you're all done with your story, downward arrow on save, promote to ready to edit, save and close. That's the easiest way to do it.
Then after that, how do you move it to print ready?
You don't need to move it to print ready. It's just, when it's in ready to edit, well, if I'm understanding it correctly, if it's in ready to edit, when I do the downward arrow, I can promote to design, or I can demote it back to draft. So it knows what stage you're in, and it will give you the option of the stage before or the stage after.
What designs last?
Is the last editing stage for you guys. So the editor would promote it to design. That tells the page designers it's ready for them. And when the page designers output the page, all the stories automatically move to the last stage of the workflow. They don't have to
Okay.
do anything. It just
So
does it.
I think I got it. So Bob, we need you to read it and leave it ready to edit. For our stories, we promote it to design. So then it's ready for page,
Where do we?
the same workflow,
The workflow?
yeah.
If you want to skip a step, yeah, you got to go to the workflow stage and you can skip any stage you want.
So you're saying that you would write it and hit ready to edit.
Ready to edit for you to see. If we don't want you to see.
Action, so when you set the start date and time,
Right, design.
So you just.
it's gonna publish at that start date and time, right? You don't.
Unless do not publish is selected
And it's always selected, okay?
to start with. But
So even then.
let's say I'm in ready to edit.
Main.
Do not publish is set. Let's say I go here and I change it
Yeah,
to
that's easier to-
design,
Right.
still set. I don't know if I actually set that up yet. Let me see if I probably made it complete.
So what is complete?
It's the final stage of the workflow that when you output your page, all the stories move to that. So you don't have stories that are still stuck in design.
We have to do that, right? It will naturally do that.
All the stories will automatically go to
Oh, it
complete. If they're on the page, they go to complete.
The story has been placed, so if somebody says, what happened to, you can look to see
To
if
see if.
it got, what page it got
Oh.
placed on versus it's just for
It's-
the.
right. Okay, so design is ready for the page complete, it automatically does it, okay.
Sorry, I feel that's a repetitive question.
I'm gonna fix that. Ready for web.
So what is complete under that?
It'll automatically go, once you put it in the design, it automatically changes it to complete.
Once you output the page,
Once I lay it.
Yeah,
once the page is laid out and you make a PDF, when you make the PDF, all the stories that are on that page move to the last stage, the complete stage.
but we don't do PDF, so.
I'll do that.
Yep, they do it.
Yeah.
Although you could do it if you're done. It just depends how you guys want to do that workflow. So to show you how the workflows move, got to do it over here. So refresh because I changed the workflows a little bit. Let's do this, right at it. Okay, so here's my story. Right now, if I go to other, do not publish a set.
Okay.
If I go to workflow and I change it to design,
Okay.
I go back up here, do not publish. Did I actually do it?
Trying to make it like automatically,
It
right?
should. Wait a minute, am I in the right workflow? I'm in print only. That's why. So, web and print, ready to edit, it's checked. I switch it to design. It's unchecked.
Okay. Okay, so that makes sense.
Okay, so we don't have to.
Right,
Okay.
does it automatically. So when it goes to design or complete, it will automatically uncheck do not
And we're
publish.
basically always working, right?
Yeah,
section.
there may be a story that you don't want online for some reason. but
Yeah, okay,
Maybe by the time, maybe it's an old story.
right. Just been, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
A lot of it'll be like if we're putting corrections up, we're just correcting it like on the file for the web, so why have the correction up there? too?
I did kind of skip over this little draft button over here.
Mhm.
Have you guys used draft? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So this,
Before we knew what we were doing.
ideally, it's for like breaking news type stories. You have a story, you put it online, and then there's more to the story and you want to add to it without those changes going up automatically. So you would check draft, and every time you save, the original story stays up there, but the new content doesn't go up until you uncheck draft and save it. And then it just updates the story. That's a different terminology. Draft in this case means that it's,
Can you just type it in the body copy, like if you wanna add stuff, you're saying?
Yeah. yeah. So let's say the story was online, I would choose draft, and then I could go in here and start adding text to this. And every time I save, it doesn't update what goes online until I uncheck this, and
Okay.
click save.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're, let's say there was a car accident, somebody was in the hospital, you're
Yeah.
writing an update because that person just died. You don't want to hit save and have it go up before it's edited.
Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So that's what draft is for.
But when we first read the story, do we have to have anything besides do not publish and web and print?
Nope.
Checked?
Nope. Those are the things, those are your protection to where it doesn't show up online automatically. Okay, over here under search areas, search text is like a Google search. Most of these search options are also available in InDesign. So this is how you would look for stories. So search text is like a Google search. It's looking for any word within the story, the headline, the byline, the photo credit, the caption. It's looking for anything in there. So the more unique the word, the easier it is to find the story. Slug is only looking at slug, and it's case sensitive. So if a slug has a capital letter in it and you're looking at lowercase letters or you're searching for lowercase letters, it's not going to find it. So if I was looking for my stories with slug, I could put 2025-06-13. If I click enter, I get nothing because that's saying that's the slug and only the slug. If I put an asterisk after it, an asterisk is a wild card that means and anything else. It's saying every story starts with that date and I don't care what it ends with, it's going to find all those. Let's say I don't know the date, but I know that AMBEE is in the middle of it because that's your Amherst B. I could do asterisk, AMBEE, asterisk. It starts with something, I don't know what it is, ends with something, I don't know what it is, but that is in there somewhere. It will find all the stories that have that in there. in the slug.
What's at the beginning? I can't see that. What's the
Asterisk.
slide? On both sides.
An asterisk on both. Anywhere where you're not sure, put an asterisk. If I wanted to find every Amherst story for this year, 2025, asterisk, AMBEE, asterisk. Starts with the year. Something is after the year, like the month and the date, but I don't know when. AMBEE, and then it ends with something else. So this would be every story for this year for the Amherst B. Okay. So the asterisk is just a wild card that says something's there, but I don't know when. You can also mix and match. I can say Amherst B that has this word in it. So if I'm looking for my last name in any Amherst B story, it would find it. And I could narrow it down to just articles instead of photos or PDFs or tables or anything. Scroll down a little further, I can narrow it down based on section tags. So all lifestyle stories for Amherst B, I could look for those. Down a little further, only stories that have a certain author on them. So I can make it my author. I can find all my stuff. Further on down, I could search. I don't find it very helpful, but I could find that perfect 10-inch story. I could do from 10 inches to 11 inches and find just that.
I think that's helpful.
Further down, workflow. So I can find only stories that are in design. So they're ready for the InDesign page. And further on down, delete assets only. So there is a way to delete assets. If I want to delete my story, let me call up my story. Oh, I moved mine.
Delete my story.
Delete yours?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's his story. I could go over here to delete. It says, are you sure? And I say yes. Over here, it says that it's marked for deletion. And if I were to run this search again, usually takes like 10 seconds or so. But if I run the search again, it's gone. But if I go to this and I look under deleted assets only and run that same search, I will find his story. And now I can undo deletion, which brings it back.
So if you delete something off BLOX, it deletes it off the website too, right?
Correct. So we really don't want to do that in most cases. But you may start a story and say, this isn't a story, and then go ahead and delete it. If you delete something, you've got 7 days to get it back. So it sits in the deleted area for 7 days. After 7 days, nothing you can do. It's not coming back. Okay, it purges. Okay, anytime you're searching for a story and you can't find it, but you know it's there, click reset. Reset makes sure that it takes all that stuff in the left-hand column and puts it back to square one. Okay, so it eliminates that. Now I'm looking at everything in the system, which is 3,381 assets in the system. Also, yours might not look like mine. See how mine has these gaps and I can read the first paragraph? That's because I have show stats and you have hide stats. So yours looks like that and mine looks like that. The advantage of mine is that I can see the photos like that. Now, if I'm under hide stats,
Oh, the bottom.
It just shows summaries.
Shows them.
show summaries. So if I'm looking at it like this, I can also mouse over the icon and see what each thing is. So if I'm looking at a story like this and I see a picture, there is a child asset with that story. Otherwise, it wouldn't show me the picture. If I have show summaries and I see a picture, I can actually click on the picture and make it bigger so I can see it better.
I don't have stats, I only have summary.
Summaries, that's what I meant to say. So show summaries, hide summaries. Boom. Boom. It will show you 50 assets on a screen And sometimes people ask if they can have more than 50, and the answer is no. You can go to 51 through 100 by clicking the next page button, but it's only going to show you the first 50 on each screen.
How did you zoom out like that? Like make it so you can see so many of them?
It's just a browser thing. If I do Control minus, I can do that,
Oh, okay.
or Control plus makes it bigger. Make sure that you don't do it too many times bigger. Otherwise, the asset won't fit on the screen when you open it, and
Okay.
like your OK button or your save button will be off the screen. You can't get to it. Okay. Up here, there's one more little toolbar. So if I have something, I can print it. So if I want to print something to a printer, as long as you have a printer connected to your computer, you can print something. You can view what it's going to look like on the website. You can export something, which it only helps if you're going to put it into a block system. It's not like you can export it and then open it up in Word or something like that. It's not in a format that's going to work. But if you wanted to export something and send it to Batavia, like I could click on a story, click export, it'll put a file on my desktop, and I can email that to them and they could import it into their BLOX website. One thing that's nice about it is that, let's say I have a story that has 10 photos attached to it. It exports one file for all those pieces. And when they import it, they get all those pieces.
Is it a PDF file?
It's a JSON file.
Okay.
Duplicate, so it makes a copy of your stories. And this is not for reporters to have copies of their stories. You don't want to just duplicate stories because then it's hard to tell what's the edited version and the unedited version. So the only reason you'd want to duplicate something is, let's say you're rerunning an obit with corrections or something, you could duplicate that. Maybe you have a master calendar that's in the system and you're duplicating a copy and you're going to edit that copy. That would be something to duplicate.
Sometimes we have a column that's running in multiple papers so that
Sure.
we can duplicate it.
Sure, because it might get edited differently in each paper.
If it's
Or
a
size.
scope, can we just, is there a way to use one file but print all the papers, the physical paper?
Technically, yes, as long as you're not laying out all those papers at the same time. Because if you're using the file, the person has it in use, all the other people can't edit that until they're out of it. And then if they make changes to it, it'll want to update over here. It's one file saving back to BLOX. So if you're going to edit it differently, I would say duplicate it. Or if you're placing it on pages at the same time in multiple publications, then I would say duplicate it.
What would you do with the duplicate? Like you clicked on something, you hit duplicate, it's just gonna duplicate it?
It duplicates it. Like if I duplicate this one right here, it just opens the copy. Then I would rename the copy. It actually puts the word copy in the headline, which you'd want to remove.
Does it automatically post it or do you have to?
No, you'd have to go back and put it in a workflow. It strips the workflow out and all that information. It keeps the section tags and it keeps any of the styling that you've done. All that stuff is in there. But if I go up here and look under other, do not publish, selected. Edit is exactly the same as double clicking on something. We just gave you a button for it. Batch edit allows you to multi-select. And when you choose that, you can add the same start time on all of them at the same time. You could add the same section tags on all of them at the same time.
Can we do the workflow change too? I just wanna,
Yes. Yep, you can change the workflow on all of them at the same time. If you forgot to change a whole bunch of images to mugshot, you could change the presentation mode to mugshot on all of them. Unlock. So right here, James is in a story and it's locked. And I can see that by this little icon here. And if I mouse over the icon, it has his email address. If I were to try to open it, it tells me saving disabled, this asset is locked by, and it has his thing. Doesn't mean I can't go in here, start typing, but I don't have a save button. So I can't save it now. So let's say that James was in his story and then went out and he won the lottery and he's not coming back and I need to get in his story. So I click on that and I go to unlock, say yes. And now I can open his story and do whatever I want to it. Okay. So what if James thought he won the lottery and he's coming back and he picks up where he left off and he starts typing right now. So right now, the way it works is whoever saves last wins. Okay. So my changes would be in the revision histories under save, and then he would save and it would overwrite mine. Both of them would still be in revisions. So the moral of the story is don't unlock something unless you really know that that person's done with it. Okay. Has to be there because sometimes people, he could be in his story and he could close the web browser, but forget to close the story.
So, okay.
And then it's still open. Okay.
It's somehow something that's messed up and it locks, so it's not usable, but then we have to make a new copy of it to be able to get it to put on. Can we
Not
use
really.
that instead, just tell it to unlock because we didn't mean to lock it?
Yeah, you can, although there's a place in InDesign where you could just release it and it breaks the link back to blocks and then you could just do whatever you want. The only negative part about releasing something is that when you make edits or fixes on the page, they're not going to save back and you'd have to do them in both places.
So
But sometimes you have to.
It's pulled off to the side and a new copy's been made and put in there. And
Yeah.
that gets put on, but then the old copy's still up to the side.
Well, ideally, they're never going to forget to close the story and they're always going to save their stories and you won't run into that. But realistically, we know that they're going to forget sometimes. It's not going to, it shouldn't happen too often, but there's always a way to release it. And we'll go through that in InDesign too. Okay.
How did we get it to lock?
If he's in it, it's locked. I can't open it. So if, and sometimes if I'm looking here, it doesn't have a lock next to all these. If I did the search and then somebody opened up their story, it wouldn't just pop in. But if I open up the story, down here at the bottom, there would be that red text that says saving disabled, this asset is locked by. And I've had people say, well, when I opened it, it wasn't there. And I'd say, yeah, it was. You just didn't notice it. So always look down at the bottom, make sure that it's not locked. If you started typing something, you got heavy into it and then realized that it was locked, you could still copy all the text, get out of it, tell them to get out, and then you could paste your stuff into the updated version. So it's not like you lost it, but it's an extra hurdle. Always make sure you're not typing in something that's locked.
So I just opened that the TUT concerts, that slug if you see, but it's not locked. It's not appearing
Hey.
locked.
Well,
You just refresh.
if I refresh my search,
Oh.
and now if I mouse over that, it tells me who's got it locked.
This might be a question. Noticed, the links, when we put a link in the article, it doesn't change the font at all to indicate that it's a link. You have to mouse over it to realize there's a link there.
So it's not making it like blue?
No.
Okay, that is a setting that if Holly doesn't know how to do it, someone at Town News would change it. It's something that wasn't enabled on your site, but it can be. Yeah. This menu up here is also available in right click. So if you right click, you got the same menu. So we went through editorial assets. There is page tracker, which we mentioned earlier, because that's where the budget is. And just so you know, whether you want to use our budget or not, it's going to happen in the background. Every time you place a story on an InDesign page, it shows up on the budget. So at the very end of the day, if you want to see what stories got placed, you could go to the budget. It'll show you everything that got placed on a page. Okay. So if I was looking for the budget for the training publication on the 13th, I would click one time, click budget view, and it shows me all the stories that are budgeted. So there are 2 stories that got budgeted for this page or for this publication, and those stories have 3 photos attached to both of them. And I can edit those right from the budget.
Yeah, we kind of don't get the question. I mean, we get the idea. I'm just asking people, will they use it?
Yeah.
So, I guess it's there.
I'm not sure I understand it, but I don't have to use it.
It's basically a story list. This is what's coming and people can look at it. The other advantage to it is if I tell it what page it's going to be on when I'm in InDesign and I open up that page, I don't have to go looking for stuff. Everything is just listed there and I can just place it. So it saves the designers a lot of time. Okay, and we're going to see that tomorrow because we're going to budget stories.
We would have slugged that and budgeted.
I don't fully understand budgeting.
So you were saying that you're gonna illustrate that tomorrow.
Yeah. Let's see. I have a page right here. That's for the 12th training M5. Yeah, I threw that on a page earlier. So if I were to take this story and I'm going to budget it for training section M because that's what my page was, and page 5 because that's what my page was. And now I'm going to, and I say I'm going to do that. I actually did this with whoever's story this was.
What did you?
Baby reporter eats instead of works.
So in InDesign, I would draw a text box to place it. I use the asset manager to place the story. But up here, there's a tab called Budget View. And it lists the story that I just budgeted. So I don't have to go looking for it. It just tells me what's supposed to go on this page.
So if you put it as page 4, then they'll know that we want it on page 4.
When they open up page 4, it'll be listed there and they know it goes
Oh.
there. Okay. Now, let's say I have page 4 and 5 in a document, in the same document. If I open up page 5 and it's budgeted for 4, I don't see it. But there's ways I could do everything that's in this entire document, page 4 or 5. It would show me all that stuff.
Okay.
So budgeting can save the designers a lot of work, a lot of searching. But do you have to use it? No. They could still search based on slugs that you give them, or how do you communicate what goes on a page right now?
Yeah, we just.
Okay, you could still do that. Think about that. Yeah, I wouldn't want it at the end of the slug because we're going to reserve that for styling things. Like if it's a letter to the editor, it's going to end with probably the word letter so that I can tell it to style correctly. Because you don't have a section tag for letters to the editor, so I have to figure out some other way of figuring out that it's a letter. Okay. The budget, I've had a lot of places say, well, we're not going to start with it, but we work into it. And there's some sites I go to where if it's not budgeted, it don't get on a page. You got to budget it because they're really strict about it. I've worked in a lot of newsrooms and been in a lot of newsrooms, and I think ultimately it's not a perfect budgeting system, but I do think it's helpful, and I think it'd save you time. Okay, so I put this on here just so I could show you, and I think I've saved this once before, but I'll save it again. If I go to Page Tracker and I look at pages for the 12th, because that's what it was, a page for the 12th. And it was a training page for the 12th. Here are all the pages. I don't see clearly these thumbnails because they're so small. So I could click this little grid up here, not the downward arrow, but the actual grid, and it makes them bigger. And then if I wanted to proof this page, let's say it was completely done, I could double click on it, tells me who's working on the page. And over here, I could click the little PDF symbol and it opens up as a high-res PDF. And from there, I could print it, I could mark it up, do whatever I want. Okay. Down here, it shows you what got placed on the page. The colors actually mean something. This color means I've never opened this page, never started working on it. This means I've started working on it, but I didn't really do anything to it. The green color means that I output and did final output. It was complete. I was testing the output yesterday to make sure it worked correctly. So when you output a page and make the final PDF, it actually turns the page in Page Tracker green, so you know it's done.
Sorry, could you repeat that color, the first one?
The first one, this one, and I wish our colors were better. I mean, from one to the next, it's hard to tell. This means I have never opened the page and started working on it. This one means I've opened the page and started working on it, but I really didn't do anything to it yet. The green means that I've made the final output. The page is complete. There's one other color that I could put in there, and this is probably where you might be interested in it. When you have completed what you need to do as far as building the page, you could click an output option that turns it yellow to let them know that you're done with it, and then they can proof it. So you don't actually have to go tell them. They can just look here, and when it turns yellow, you're done with it.
Very good, then if they know it's done.
Yeah. So that's what Page Tracker is. Page Tracker is a representation of the pages, which this is a website. You can go to it, you can check the status of pages from home. You could proof pages from home if you needed to. You don't have to be in the office. Double-edged sword means you could work from home, and it means that you can work from home. So either way. It also gives the ability to reporters who don't have InDesign or anything to actually see what the paper looks like as it's being put together. So if they saw a big 60-point error headline, they could say something. Probably not a really good idea to micromanage the design and point out like flaws you don't like, but if there was a big error, you'd want to say something. Syndication, did we set up any channels for you guys? Something there. What we can do and what we've done in all the other sample sites is we've added syndication channels for all the other sample sites. So you have access to everything that's live on their website and can use it on your pages. So if you're looking for, I always bring up Gettysburg because you do July 4th and everybody wants, packages of stuff that they might be able to fill pages with. But you could go to Gettysburg's syndication channel and use any photos or stories that they have. So I will put all those channels in there. Whether you use them is up to you. It doesn't take up any more space. Also under here, there's an assignments option. So you can create an assignment. Basically what this does is, let's say he's out and you want to assign him a story. You could go through here and do, just so I can get rid of this in a little bit, I'm going to name it that. You can give it a description, which is like a budget line. Click next. Give it a workflow, and I'm going to do that just so it doesn't show up online. And that I could choose a user from here. In fact, I'm just going to choose Dave because Dave's sitting right there. Dave Foyle. So it puts him in there. I can give it a due date, but I can skip that. I can budget it for wherever I want to put it. I can put an address on it, but be careful about doing this here because it actually does create the locator map. So if you're sending them to somebody's house, you probably wouldn't want to put a locator map on it. Contact name, title, email address. So this is who he should contact about the story. Section tags. You could also do a photo assignment with it, but I'm just going to create an assignment. So what it does is it creates the article as Dave as the author, and it sends Dave an email to tell him he has an assignment. And all Dave has to do is go in and find that asset and start typing into it. I haven't seen it used too much. I see it used a lot with
Email.
special sections. Sometimes one person's in charge of a special section and they just start making assignments to everybody and it's easier that way. There's a sports department in Maryland that loves it. They have a lot of stringers, so he assigns all the stories that way. So we went through assets, assignments, e-editions you won't have to use. That's specifically for some other people. No matter what, your e-edition is going to be sent automatically. You don't have to FTP anything. BLOX is going to send it. So when you do the final output and make the PDF, it also sends it to your e-edition. And now I say, what kind of questions do you have? And a lot of times you don't know what questions you have until you start doing stuff. So what we end up doing is, that's why I'm here through Wednesday, no, through Thursday next week. So as you guys are going live in the print part of this, as you're having questions, I'm here and I run around and I help you guys do it.
Cool, thank you so much.
Okay. And Dave's gonna be here too. So we got two people here that are gonna help you guys out. As you're running into things, just ask the questions. A lot of people, and even after I leave, you guys will have my email address. You guys can send me emails and ask me questions. What I don't want is for you guys to suffer silently and develop workarounds. So as you're running into something, say something. Okay.
Which paper we're using last time?
So any stories you're writing now, we want to start putting in the website. Do not publish.
Probably
Yeah,
both.
So we're not
could be in both.
using BLOX.
Yeah.
So we also,
But we already started doing something, so.
We have-
You want me to put some of them in both?
Where's for next Wednesday's paper, we're using blocks?
Yes.
Oh,
Because
Heather
we
had
can
said we were
tell.
doing both next week and then
is that what it is?
BLOX.
She said you were gonna dummy both,
24th.
but I would not suggest you actually produce two
There was
different.
way too much work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be producing twice as many papers, so, you know. If we run into an issue, then we'd fall back, but I've never run into an issue where we actually had to fall back. We should be fine. Okay, so tomorrow we do, anybody who does InDesign, we'll be starting to work on InDesign. And we're gonna run through creating pages and all that stuff, getting stories on pages. But you're gonna remote into a machine? Okay,
And
any other questions?
I just had one, like, going back to the
on Monday,
budget.
she.
Okay.
Where, if you're like, at the home
We'll
screen
work it out.
and you're seeing all the assets and you go to new assets, where do you find the budget? Like, under new
It's up
assets?
at the top left where it says BLOX CMS editorial assets, you go to page tracker. Then you will see the different publications that are upcoming. So I was doing it for the
Yeah, I've
13th
seen
TRN. You click one time and then up here at the top right, you choose budget view. And that shows you the budget. Right up here at the top right. You have to select
it. Oh,
one of the publications. And then you can click on a budget view.
with the story, when you're done with it,
Mhm.
make sure it gets onto the budget, or the slug, you do it.
As you're in the, pull up the story.
The budget view is grayed out if I select more than one.
Yeah, you can only open up one at a time. One. So to put something on the budget, when you have the story open down here under publications, you would choose add and add the information. Remember when we did this training? That's how to put it on the budget. And if you needed to move something, you could just double click on this and change the date and it moves it from one budget to the next. Each publication is going to have its own budget. So let's say I opened this budget. I can also open this budget. And even the third one. So I can have them all open and then I can just go back and forth between the tabs and look at the different budgets for different publications. And one thing that I did not show you yet, you might have seen me do it. If I right click on a tab up here, I can duplicate and can have two tabs for blocks open. So I could have assets here and page tracker on this one. And if I wanted even another one, I could have a syndication channel on this. So I can go back and forth between stories, budgets, and syndication channels.
So if we saw something wasn't in the budget, but should be in the budget, we could then tell the editor, hey, where is this?
Sure. Sure. Although
So,
it's still just to be determined if they're gonna use the budget. So we'll see. Questions?
So that duplicate, what would you use that for? Is that, you want to see the stories, you want to see layout, they're kind of separate.
Yeah, because a lot of times editors are checking the budget or the status of pages, but they don't want to leave their stories, so they just have a separate thing. I've seen reporters actually have two tabs open and they're working on one story here and another story here. That can get a little confusing, but
Yeah.
that's up to them.
because I remember the
Yeah,
Other thought we'd be using both for this.
that's what we do originally, but now I think it's changed.
Other questions?
yeah.
I don't think bonus is gonna be a big thing is, so we can do them.
Yeah,
For that, so
yeah, I think,
why are we doing the paper?
So are you-
Yeah.
do they give you all the photos before they even go into blocks?
Yes,
Okay, so you're gonna tone them beforehand. You're gonna tone. And do you currently do it now? RGB for web and CMYK for print?
no, we just leave it, seem like.
Our own tone converts, I think.
Well, actually, blocks actually converts them when you put them up there. It's just sometimes they look a little darker.
Mhm.
I don't know if you'll notice anything,
Okay.
but you don't have to change them. You can just leave them CMYK and put them up. It'll convert it. I'll just show you. But your printer converts it anyway? Does your printer convert it?
The CMY guy?
Yeah.
I don't know who's printing them. Who's printing you guys?
Well, right now, angle, like ATJ is gonna be actually,
Do they want photos to be CMYK?
Yes.
most likely, I would assume so.
Okay. So you'll make it CMYK. I'll show you the folder that you'd put it into. And when they place it on the page, it looks in that folder, finds it, swaps it out automatically. So,
So if they have to know, we have to change our system, because right now they email everything to photos that be used as an email. We download them and save them, so we can still do that and place them somewhere.
you can. Hopefully, the photos tend to be large. They go through our emails.
Yeah. They send one at a time,
Yeah, you could still do that.
unless it's like a Dropbox or a Google Drive, then they'll just tell us which ones to download.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, you can still do the same way you've always done it.
And then save to where would we?
I'll show you on the server where it would be.
Go directly into blocks instead of having like the BR server that we've used in the past, like that they're already where they need to be and we can just grab them for layout.
Well, that's where they are now, when we're done with them. They are on-
Swapping out the photos.
Right, but like, would it make
Give
sense to
everything
put them
there.
directly into blocks and just
I
keep
don't
the
know.
BR
if it would look
folder all
on the
together
server.
is what I'm wondering.
No, I want to do them beforehand, because like Amy's paper is huge. And if she's got 2 photos on every page and I'm trying to get it out the door,
Right.
I want to do it beforehand. I don't-
Oh, no.
Because they have to convert to CMY.
Yeah, I understand the question. No, what I was saying was after they've been toned or whatever it is you guys do the converting, would it make sense instead of using the BR folder, put the edited photos directly to blocks and not
No,
have that
because
extra
that
step
is
in between?
CMYK is not GP.
Blocks doesn't do.
Then that's the reason we're doing that.
RGB though, right?
No, because the printer needs CMYK, the
I
printer
have to-
needs
I have to-
HDB.
I'll put them as CMYK for print.
So we have
It's
to,
go back
we
to
need
RGB.
two separate.
Anyway, don't
pictures.
worry about it.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Doing some testing this afternoon. Okay, let's do it again tomorrow.
Village logo.
Same training. Just reporters, though, no editors. In that group.
Yeah, that'll.
I don't know. Hey, I don't do any. I wouldn't think so.
Like,
Yeah.
You guys are very good teachers.
Markets, I just can't sit here.
You jump in when you need to.
I mean, but we'll just leave all this here.